Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our third DLC Live. I am Brian, and with me, we have Ron.
Hello, everyone.
We have Ronny.
Hello.
We have Ryan.
Hello.
And we have Spencer making his live debut. Welcome aboard.
Howdy.
Welcome, one and all. And I see that Ron has his webcam on, which means I now have to readjust my text placeholders for names. So he appears.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
He appears. That's all right. We'll just slide the names over. Actually, no.
It is with the overlays. It's like watch someone's camera gets messed up and everything gets all screwy in the placements.
This is the joy of live podcasting here. But yes, today's episode is a free play. It's an open discussion. The five of us are going to talk about a range of video game topics, some of which I know, but others I don't. So it's going to be a fun episode. And if anyone out there in the chat is listening and wants to get an opinion of ours on some burning question that they have related to video games, pop it into the chat, and if we have time, we will bat that around and see what happens. So before we get started, just want to remind everyone that every single episode of downloadable content, almost 190 episodes worth, can be found on our website, dlcpodcast.com. The audio versions of our episodes can be found also on the website, also on Google Podcasts, Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher. Getting my name.
Well, that's a new platform.
Wait a minute. Who invented that one? But we have all the different ways to get downloadable content into your ears. So take that as you will. And yeah, so this is going to be interesting. So we have five of us. So for this this fun little thing here, hold on. Didn't want to do that. Wanted to move you over here. There we go. Let's just. Oh, nope, we can't do that. Okay, good. I'm going to break out the wheel of names here. I know. Ooh. Let me bring up the display capture here. No, not that one. Beep. That's what I wanted. The wheel o names. So we've got our five. And I'm going to shuffle it up, and we're going to spin it and see who goes first. So let's just give it a couple of shuffles, and away we go. Oh, don't let it be me to start.
Oh, God.
Really?
Yep, really.
Okay. It's chosen me. Fine.
Rigged content.
Rigged. Yep, totally rigged.
Fine.
On the line, too. This was Wheel of Fortune. You say get a respin.
Can I get a respin? No, fine. Fine. Just put that away. All right, I'll start then. I didn't want me to start, but meh. Okay. So the topic I wanted to bring up today to kick things off, because I've been seeing a ton of. It seems like all of the gaming news that's hit my social media within the last few months has either been Elden Ring, Horizon Forbidden West, Pokemon, and the thing I'm going to bring up is all of the big video game acquisitions that have been flying fast and furious. Like, how long is it going to be until we're down to just one video game developer, the video game developer? Because it seems like everyone's buying everybody up left and right. Like we have Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard. We have Sony just buying up everything in sight. They just acquired Bungie. So I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts on what this this rash of video game acquisitions and what you think it'll mean going forward. It's like anytime some big studio gobbles up somebody else, like you always get either the yes, good, this is great, this is going to be a good idea, and then you have others that are like, this is terrible. That means the games are gonna suck now. This is absolutely just. And so I'm just like, all right, like what do we think? I think in the case of like Activision Blizzard, I think that like that was such a massive dumpster fire for so many reasons. I mean, not the least of which
I was gonna say I'm generally against these large acquisitions just as a general rule, but Activision Blizzard is the only time where I was unapologetically in favor of it, because I think the only way to fix that company was a change in management from the top.
That's where I was going. Like in the case of Activision, it was like that was such a dumpster fire that I felt like that somebody needed to step in and save them from themselves. Whereas you have the case of
there's nowhere to go but up.
Basically,
You say that. You say that, and yet 3 times when we thought they couldn't find bottom, they somehow found a way to dig past the clay layer, past the bedrock, and they're currently buried somewhere between the mantle and the inner core of the earth.
They're inspired by the RE4 lava room, okay?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have the case, and then you have Bungie, like, which has been passed around, like, since it's separated from Microsoft. I feel like Bungie has just sort of been like being passed around from player to player, and now it's just Sony's turn to have it.
Well, that's partly Bungie's own fault, in my opinion, because they went independent and still had to publish content for Destiny 2. And then along the way, they started bungling how they handled Destiny 2 in like a really poor, like multiple poor decisions. To the point where I think they eventually lost so much of their player base that they had to eventually get some outside capital from somewhere. And Sony was like, "Hey, you want to like I suspect they probably approached several people, including Microsoft, and Sony was like the ones that jumped at them immediately and was like, "Hey, you want to like here's a bucket here's a super container worth of money. You want to come with us and like you can still do your own thing, just maybe occasionally let us use your gun dev work for our FPS games."
I feel like they got acquired exclusively for the Destiny IP.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, they don't really have anything else to them. Like, they worked on Halo, but they obviously didn't own the IP to Halo. And they hadn't really done anything to scale that a company would care about outside of Destiny. And I don't see them getting acquired just for the skill of their developers.
Well, maybe not skilled developers per se, but specifically the idea of, okay, generally speaking, the gun, like how guns felt and how guns shot in Destiny and Destiny 2 and to a lesser extent Halo, people always said that the gun side of the gaming of those games was always good, pretty much when there was Bungie being made. It was usually everything around around the rest of the gunplay, so that it was like, okay, it's good, or sometimes it's terrible, or sometimes it's like, so.
I mean, it might just be that they're trying to. They want more studios because they want to crank out first-party IPs at a faster rate than they currently are, and that might just be all it is they needed a competent team that's already together, and that was just one of the ones they were able to get, and it happens to come with a I don't know, guys. Is Destiny a strong IP or a decent IP? Because I hear so many people bitch about it.
It really depends on the campaign and what the season pass is bringing in. Then again, I haven't played it in a while, but the last time I played it, it was pretty decent to go through with everything. But again, it all depends on what the next season is bringing in and stuff. Because I know some of my friends have bitched about it. I haven't minded it, but it all really depends. It depends on what you like, what you as a player like, basically.
Like usually it's I see fans of this franchise bitching about that franchise, fans of that franchise bitching about this franchise. Elden
Isn't that
Ring and
every
Horizon fans are going into battle against each other.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, but with this, I feel like it's Destiny fans going to war with their own game. Like that's all I see is Destiny fans bitching about Destiny.
Well, actually, isn't it Destiny versus Elder Scrolls Online going against each other now?
I don't know. I don't know, but either way, like back to the acquisition thing, like as I was saying, I'm generally against acquisitions. I have to be convinced that they're good if there's an actual justification for it. With Activision Blizzard, I don't see how it could get worse. And with Bungie, I just don't really care that much.
So, other acquisitions of note that occurred within the last, 6 months to a year. Like, you have Epic Games, who apparently just wants to be king of the party games. So, they bought Mediatonic, which was the developer behind Fall Guys. They also purchased Psyonix, which, if you're familiar, they did Rocket League. And
Yep.
they also...
Just recently, just like as of 5 days ago, bought Bandcamp.
Yes, they bought Bandcamp, and they bought Harmonix, which the creators of Rock Band.
A little late to the party on that one, but
But the Bandcamp one was interesting because I follow a number of like indie musicians on social media and on Twitter mostly, and they're like, wow, Bandcamp legit sold out, and they were kind of pissed about that. So it's
I'm not going to be using them anymore.
like, and I think part of that sort of, well, fuck this shit mindset when that happened was, I think Epic has gone on record saying that they will be embracing like NFTs and things like that. So that was part of the that was the whole, yeah.
I've also heard that part of the reason that they bought Harmonix was because Harmonix owns several copyrights that they got from doing Rock Band and from doing that genre that Epic Games wants to have for a project.
So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they have like a peripheral IPs that they have copyrights over and that they want the, like, if as an example, if Epic wants to do a like sort of like a live service like rock band thing, like they may want the peripheral IPs where it's like, okay, if you want to play, I don't know, some song, like I don't know, like a genre of song, then you can like just use the peripheral, and like they have the technology for the like converting a song from like the musical notes into the keys for you to press for the guitar or the bass or the drums or whatever. Like maybe that's what they bought them for, because they want to do like a live service rock band thing.
Exactly. That's where my brain was going as well. Honestly, I feel like Rock Band came out a little earlier than it could have. Honestly, what I could see them doing is releasing something like that now, but instead of having a bunch of different versions, you just put Rock Band Eternal up and then just put out DLCs for specific bands every year and just keep doing that and just keep that game going for years.
I mean, not even every year. Like you could do like a simple like season pass is like, hey, here's a season pass.
I didn't mean like one a year. I just meant like keep putting them out.
Yeah, you like every 4 or 6 weeks you'd be like, hey, here's a list of like 10 more songs you could like start playing with and like perfecting. And then like maybe like even like an editor so that people can like edit in their own songs that they like, be it anime songs or like you saw originally like some of the first things hacked for Guitar Hero way back when was Dragon Forces Through the Fire and Flames.
Yep.
You got it. I mean, honestly, I kind of see a lot of franchises going that way. I will tell you right now, I expect we will see Mario Kart 9 when whatever comes after the Switch comes. It'll be one of the first games, and they will just do DLC of tracks and characters for the entire length of the system. And that's just what we're going to see for some of these franchises now, where you don't need to keep putting out new ones. If you make one that's really solid and just go, well, we're just going to keep adding to this for the next 6 or 7 years until the next system comes out.
I mean,
Like,
that's what they did for Mario Kart 8. Like, Nintendo announced like 2 weeks, like a month ago, that they're going to be updating and re-releasing like 20
48.
or 30 tracks. Yeah, 48 tracks.
48.
Yeah, 48
Yeah,
tracks
yeah.
from all like a bunch of prior Mario Kart games.
I mean, this is
I
Nintendo
felt-
we're talking about. So does that come as a surprise to anyone? Nope.
This is what I felt like was gonna happen for a while, and them announcing that for announcing those 48 new tracks, announcing all that just kind of solidified that yeah, this is their plan going forward, and I think it's a good one. I feel like this is the right way to use DLC or microtransactions, where it's not exploitative to people, it's just giving people more content rather than putting out a new version of the game that on a yearly basis like some of these franchises do. FIFA.
I mean, I was gonna say the one company we haven't talked about, and I really think it should probably happen at some point. EA Games. I have not heard anything about them being purchased by someone else.
Well, anytime you have one of these big acquisitions, like you can always go on social media and be like, somebody buy Square Enix or somebody buy Ubisoft.
Or somebody buy EA Games and maybe make it better.
EA Games has so much goddamn money. They're not selling out to anybody. If anything,
they would probably buy someone.
Yeah, I am halfway joking when I say if they told me that they're putting out the EA console next year and all the sports games are exclusive to it, I would not be surprised.
Well, keep in mind too that like people are saying like buy Square Enix or buy like Ubisoft or buy whatever. It's like these are still companies that are by and large on an upswing, so you would have to pay more of a premium for it than other companies might have been in the past. Like, for example, like I mean, when Activision bought Blizzard, they had just finished Pandaria, Mr. Pandaria, I think.
Mm-hmm. That sounds right.
So like Blizzard was like doing okay. I think they were more so leaning on the fact of the StarCraft 2, and then I think Overwatch was still like in like early development beta at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So like buying a company on the upswing has definitely got its perks to it, but you definitely need to be aware of like potential downfall as a result of the said purchase. So
I mean, there's only one company outside of Activision Blizzard, which obviously already happened, that I would want to get purchased, or at least have their IPs taken off of their grubby hands,
fucking
and
Konami.
that is Konami. 100%.
Yeah, you got a point.
Just because they have no interest being in the industry, really. Like, even when they put out games now, I'm convinced that it's basically one of their higher-ups just goes, oh, no, I think we can do something with this, and has to convince all the other ones. Like, they aren't a game company anymore. They are a company that has the IP to games that they will occasionally use.
Well, don't forget all the games pretty much every game they have released is Japan only, and more often than not, it's literally a pachinko of an IP they already have.
That's where they're making their money.
That's yes,
and it's a lucrative business. Like,
for them,
it's a lot of money with very low risk. But because of that, we're never going to see so many IPs and franchises ever come back unless they get bought, unless somebody buys Konami, or at least buys Konami's IPs, or even not all the IPs. Leave them the two they use. Leave them Metal Gear, and I don't know. What else does Konami do nowadays?
Okay, so here are the Konami franchises they have, and I'm just going to list them all off, right? Adventure Island, Air Force Delta, Beatmania, Bloody Roar, Boktai, Bomberman, Castlevania, Chosei Sen series, Coded Arms, Contra, Crush Pinball, Dance Dance Revolution, Frogger, Ganbare Goemon, Gradius, In the Groove, International Superstar Soccer,
They've got a
Lethal
lot.
Enforcers, Lost in Blue,
Yeah.
Metal Gear, NBA In the Zone, Paradies, Pro Evolution Soccer, Robopon, Silent Hill,
We
Star
get it, there's
Soldier,
a lot.
Tsukiden, Tengai Makio, Tokiyami Memorial, Twin B, Yu-Gi-Oh, and
Tokimeki Memorial.
and Zone of the Enders.
Okay,
And
So
Here's the
all, like
thing,
of all that's like of those like 35 or so, Castlevania, Silent Hill, Suikoden, like Yu-Gi-Oh, Metal Gear, and like Zone of the Enders. Like those are like probably the big IPs you would want to buy off of Konami.
I'm gonna go on a soapbox for a second here, and this is because Konami fucked it up when they really could have done a lot better job. The Castlevania games that they put out, at least the two that I played, Lords of Shadow and Lords of Shadow 2, I'm still very bitter about what happened with those, because I know of the older ones, but those like were the two that I got into with it, and I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I heard they were good.
Games. They, in my personal opinion, for someone who had never played Castlevania before, those two games were good. Then I find out the long history of Castlevania, and I'm like, Konami, you could do a shitload with Castlevania. Nope, they just want to sit on it, and I'm at least. Here's my thing. I want someone to buy up the Castlevania IP from them, because fuck you, Konami. You don't deserve that good of a series.
Hey, if Bloodstain does well enough, maybe.
I was about to say that.
like of those like if you told me, like, as an example here, let's get like a Capcom. Let's say Capcom bought the IP for Castlevania and Zone of the Enders, and then Sony bought the IP for Metal Gear and gave it back to Kojima, because that's something I can see Sony doing. Like I would be fine with that, because then it would get into studios. Then those people would give it to studios that have experience, knowledge, and the desire to want to make those games, because I feel like Capcom can do Castlevania thanks to Devil May Cry.
Mm-hmm. Can we give Silent Hill to Capcom? I'd love to see what the Resident Evil 7 people could do with Silent Hill.
Yeah, like you could give Silent Hill to Capcom too. I mean, if we're being honest here, Capcom's on a really big upswing over the past like 3 or 4 years with the remakes and the Monster Hunter and like the new IPs they're starting to come out with.
Yeah, true.
Like to be completely honest, I'm surprised that we have not heard of someone trying to buy Capcom.
Spencer, how much money do you have? I mean, we could pool our money together and maybe try for the Metal Gear IP.
Maybe after the season's over, and I have a little more cash saved.
Okay. We'll get back to that, because maybe we can see if we can wrest the Metal Gear IP and give it back to Kojima where it rightfully belongs.
I could see everything. I could see Konami selling any of their IPs except Metal Gear. I feel like you would have to buy their entire... You'd either have to buy the company or at least their entire games division to get Metal Gear. I don't think they would give that up.
Well, yeah, because we'll
sell it for... I was gonna say, I don't think they would ever sell it for a reasonable amount. Like, I don't think anybody that would want to buy it for a business sense would ever be able to like justify the amount of money they'd have to spend to purchase. Like I think that especially with all the deals that have gone down, that they're just going to ask for a price that's just way beyond what a company's willing to pay.
I mean, also, they're gonna ride the grudge they have with Kojima until until the heat death of the universe.
It's going to be like with that.
So just for reference,
like that Blackest Black paint, you can buy Metal Gear, but you can't allow Kojima to work on it.
So for reference, as of early 2022, it's estimated that Konami is probably worth somewhere around $5 billion.
Okay, USD. All right. Well, okay. So and obviously we're forgetting like one of the other massive acquisitions that happened actually a year ago this month. Microsoft bought Bethesda.
Yeah.
So and that was $7.5 billion. Come on, Microsoft, you've got the money. Come on, get it. Go get it.
They have to manipulate the stock market a few more months before they can get that kind of fluid cash.
Well, I mean, with
are you sure about that?
I'm pretty sure. Hard.
Like, I'm pretty sure. Like, aren't like Apple, Nvidia, AMD, Microsoft, and Sony are all sitting on like huge piles of like liquid cash right now. Like they could definitely go and buy these companies if they wanted to. They're just choosing not to for whatever reason.
And I was gonna say with Metal Gear, I'm pretty sure that Konami has that in like one of those bomb-proof, plasma soft-proof safes that you need like a 1,000,000-digit code and the blood of every staff's firstborn child in order to get to.
It's in the same vault as where they keep the Colonel's original 11 herbs and spices.
See, this is gonna show my ignorance probably, but I'm not. Well, I didn't support the Microsoft buying Bethesda. To me, at least, it made sense because for me, Elder Scrolls was always a PC-first series. So
I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's been so like ingrained that a lot of people feel like they're their console series first, that just never jived with me. Like to me, it was like, oh, Microsoft bought it. Of course they did. Like it's the biggest game series on PC. Like,
yeah. It's
Ron is shaking his head like, "Oh, you sweet summer child."
like my problem with Bethesda is okay. Yes, Elder Scrolls is a giant money-making title, but I feel like ever since like Skyrim, like they have bungled all of their other IPs other than being the ones that published Doom for 2016 and Doom Eternal,
which was amazing.
Yeah, but that's not because Bethesda made the game. Bethesda just paid to publish it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 were like middling to abject failures.
Okay, Fallout 76 definitely started that way. I heard, not that I play the game, that they kind of No Man's Skied it and have fixed a lot of the issues by this point, and have made
you give any studio enough time and money, they can eventually turn a turd ball into something playable. I mean, it took what was it, freaking CD Projekt Red over a year to make Cyberpunk 2077 like not garbage, and it's still only middling.
No, I know, but I mean, they have Ghostwire Tokyo coming, and that looks amazing.
So
that's them, right? Or am I misremembering?
That's Sony.
Okay, I'm looking it up now. Developed by Tango Gameworks, published by Bethesda. So that's why I thought that.
Yeah.
So with all of these acquisitions going on, it's like it feels like it's sort of a wait and see. Like some of these franchises that have been dormant or businesses that have just been so terrible that they need saving. That's like, what do we expect as fans and consumers going forward?
I mean,
if I may interject, I would guess that it's going to reach a tipping point where the price of a game is going to start to increase more and more because there's less developers controlling the pricing, and people are just going to stop buying these games as often because it's going to be $80-$90 to make these games, because these companies are going to want to recoup all the money they spent to buy out these development houses. And the best way to do that is by charging us more. Now, that maybe it may not be in the true initial price. It might be, microtransactions or other stuff like we've seen Square Enix doing recently with some of their newer titles. Like, that's where I see it going. Like, pricing increased, like, maybe not exponentially, but significantly.
Or even better, like how EA likes to do things, paywalls.
I don't see it as much. For the most part, these aren't companies that have huge catalogs. They have a couple big games that they're being bought up. I mean, the best example being Bungie, where they only have one real game in the modern sphere. I don't see this really, like, there are still tons of companies. I would have to see a lot, like, over a dozen acquisitions before I believe that it's really going to affect the size of the industry and consolidation. Either that, or if we saw Nintendo getting bought up by somebody, or Sony or Microsoft's game division, that would be an issue. But for a lot of these, like I said, like even if it was Capcom that got bought, with the amount of IP, the amount of games they currently put out, that might be a problem. But for a lot of these, where it's like they only have one or two franchises currently going, generally at a time, it doesn't really matter that much to me. And the exception to that being Activision Blizzard, but Activision Blizzard was already a dumpster fire that was already going down in flames, and whoever bought them, more power to them.
It's Microsoft?
Yes, Microsoft bought them. I mean, like, which, both viewpoints are well and good. I'm just like, what is this like?
By the way, just to clarify, I agree with Spencer's viewpoint that if we consolidate too much, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yes,
think there needs to be a lot more consolidation before that becomes an issue.
I'm curious to see what will happen, as far as releases. Like, now that you have, like, these big guys buying out these other companies, like, does that mean we're going to see, like, for example, an Elder Scrolls 6, sooner? Or,
No. If anything, in my opinion, what you're going to start seeing happen is you're going to start seeing more of these AAA games start getting released, but it's only going to be, like, one AAA game every 3 or 4 years from a studio. You're going to see a lot of more like season passes or DLC for those AAA games, and you're going to see a lot of smaller games being made by like offshoots of that company, like the people that made Octopath Traveler and Triangle Strategy. Like they're a subset of Square Enix. Was it Tokyo Game Studio or something like that?
Tokyo Game Studio, yeah, they're the people who did I Am Setsuna and that group of games.
Yep.
As well.
Yeah, you're gonna see more things like that. It's going to be like an indie company, like being in the middle of being published through Square Enix.
Don't forget the branch of remakes and remasters that are inevitably going to grow more and more exponentially as more games that have been released in the past become quote-unquote retro enough to be remastered and re-released over and over again. So RE4 and Skyrim will start to get some competitors. I can promise you that.
I was thinking along those same lines. Like, it's like, all right, now we're gonna see, so we already see Resident Evil 4 and Skyrim released on every console under the sun, and now
Resident Evil in a village with You mean Resident Evil 8? You're talking about 8, right?
It's I'm seeing the Grand Theft Auto trilogy, creeping up there as far as re-releases. So
but their re-release was a dumpster fire.
Well, keep in mind too that keep in mind too that you do have people like Blue Points that like did the remake for Demon Souls. Like that was like amazing, and then like fans are constantly been clamoring for remastering or re-releasing of Bloodborne on PC, and
Yeah.
like that's always in the like maybe category.
And then Blue Point Games wound up being bought by Sony.
Yeah, that's my point.
So-
That's my point. Is like Blue Point is just going to be like making remasters of like a bunch of Sony games from the PS2 and PS3 era, and just putting them on PS5, while Sony spends its like library of being like, okay, which of these remasters eventually makes money, so we can eventually throw AAA money budget behind it.
I mean, I know this is where Brian and I typically differ, but I am all for the idea of more ports and more remasters for games that the current generation hasn't had a chance to enjoy. Like I have no issue with that, especially as in the modern day. It's generally not taking time away from the studio itself, because there are studios who their entire job is for them to do remasters of games for other studios so that it doesn't take away from their teams. Like, now that that's a thing, I don't see any argument against remasters that make sense to me.
Yeah, so and we're probably going to see, as these acquisitions, as these keep going on, we may see quite a bit more of them. So, all right. So that
I definitely think we will.
That's we've spent like a little more than half an hour on that, so we're gonna move on. So let's pull up the wheel of morality again here. All right, let's bring it on back. Let's get the display capture window back up, and all right. So I've removed myself from the wheel, and let's do this again. Well, we're going to be committed for the next 2 hours. Ronnie's turn.
I because of the Twitch things behind him, we'll look watching it going, okay, who is it? Oh.
Yeah, this is what happens. This is a slight delay here. We've got like a 7-second delay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
the wheel has chosen you, Ronnie, so,
Yep.
Let me make sure I'm sitting comfortably for this.
RNG
don't think
is a
it's gonna
cruel
take-
mistress.
Isn't it? Yeah.
I don't think this is going to be that long of a discussion, but I know at least one, if not multiple of you, are going to be avidly against me on this.
It would not be a proper downloadable content if it wasn't.
Nope.
Do you really need to preface that anymore? Because that seems like an assumption at this point.
Ronnie's been on enough
It's either
episodes.
you or it's Ron. One of the two of you is going to be against me on it. So, I'm going to start off with, I'm going to be talking about one game in particular right now, but that game is not the only time I've seen this. This is a pet peeve of mine for years that keeps coming up. It just got brought up again recently with a recent game, and that is Elden Ring. And that is the concept that artistic vision means something can't be criticized. That because something is a deliberate choice, that it can't be a bad choice, so that it can't be a choice that doesn't work for you. That it is your problem as a person. And the concept for Elden Ring that brought this up was an article I read on the pause button, or lack thereof. And how incensed the fans got that somebody would want a pause button in a game when people have families and children and other things to go, not make the game easier for me, go, I'm sorry, my child is crying. I think I should have the ability to pause the game.
This is actually new to me, so I've not.
Yeah, I had heard about that.
So there was an article, I believe it was from Polygon, that talked about how the game does not have a real pause button. Now, there is a back-ass-words method of pausing the game. If you go into your inventory and then go into the help menu, it pauses the game while you're in the help tutorial.
Okay.
So, it is possible to pause the game, but it does not teach you that, and it is definitely not an intended way of playing the game.
But so by default, then you cannot pause the game at all.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that is not true of all of their games. Bloodborne had a pause button, but none of the Dark Souls did, from my understanding. At least I don't remember them having a pause button.
The Dark Souls games did not have a pause button because pause button was tied to
Not Bloodborne, Sekiro had a pause button. Bloodborne and Dark Souls didn't.
Yeah, Sekiro. The reason why Sekiro I felt had a dedicated pause button was because there was an actual like game behind it. Like you had like a character and a story and things involved with the world of that game that you would want to have a pause button because it's meant to be an actual game experience. It's meant to be a difficult game, but it's meant to be a game. Whereas with like everything else, like the dollar games, it's meant to be like the idea of it being a game that punishes you for mistakes.
For me, the way that the Souls games had always been described when people were selling me on them is they were a game that was incredibly difficult but fair. That you failed because of your own mistakes. And I don't understand. Yeah, I'm not saying that's correct. I'm saying that's how it's been described. And going off of that, I don't understand how not having a pause button is a positive trait. Now, I'm not going to harp on just this, because this goes into the whole mindset of they didn't have a pause button in the Souls games, and they don't have a pause button in Elden Ring, so it was obviously an artistic decision they made, and because of that, you can't criticize it. I saw multiple people making this argument. And I see this argument in every argument about Souls games, but not just Souls games. Any game made by an auteur gets that argument that this was made with an artistic direction in mind, and because of that, it can't be a poor decision. It was part of the artistic integrity of the game, and therefore it's just not for you.
Anyone who has that mindset needs to sit through an entire season of Mystery Science Theater and then tell me that.
Get your pitchforks here. Get your pitchforks.
Thank you, Spencer. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. There's not much else to say in that front. That's just like people being just like incapable of allowing people to talk negatively about their favorite game, and it just shows that they probably don't want to know about the flaws of the game because to them it's perfect.
I generally agree. Like that, your game can be amazing, but there could still be flaws in the game.
Exactly.
Well, that's the thing. Like, when people talk about this, the implication I tend to get is this is a piece of artwork, therefore it can't be criticized. Not like the rest of those games.
To which I say, as an artist, bullshit. Bullshit.
Yeah, like
exactly.
Bullshit. The whole point of art is to be criticized. It's meant to be viewed and critiqued and get opinionated on, because that's the whole point of art. Is to look at it and go, ooh, pretty, or ooh, ugly.
Like
understanding. Don't get me wrong. Understanding why the director, the art director, whoever it was, made a decision. That can make you understand, okay, this is why they made this choice. But you can still criticize that choice and go, they made it for this reason, but it still wasn't a great choice. Or it wasn't a great choice from this thing. They were trying to make this experience, but it had this consequence, such as for the pause menu. The general accepted belief for why they don't put pause menus in their games is because they wanted to be one continuous experience. They don't want you to be able to pause and get you away from that feeling of stress and anxiety they're trying to build towards their moment of catharsis. But because of that, it makes their games very difficult for adults with children and families to be able to play.
I was also gonna say with that, yeah, tell that to people who also get very involved in games like those ones, and especially if they get like really pissed off at it. Yeah, let's see how good that goes with it.
We have a similar thing. You have a similar thing too with like live games that like League of Legends or Valorant or what have you, where like you play this game, you think you have to set aside like X amount of time, and X can be a variable because if it's League of Legends, game can be over in 20 minutes or a game can last over an hour, depending on how good or how bad you and your playmates and your opponents are.
But with online dedicated games, like that's a little bit of a different thing because you can't exactly pause for every I at least understand it in those kinds of games.
Yeah, and then it makes sense because you're not taking up the time of just yourself. You're also pausing the game for 9 other people. Like it makes sense in that case. If you're going to come in here and talk about like difficulty sliders and what have you, then I could have valid discourse. If it's just people bitching and moaning about the fact that the choice to not have a pause button is because of artistic integrity, that's baloney.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, and it kind of comes down to that. But here's the thing I'll even say. The debate over whether there should be easier modes of this or not, that is a legitimate debate to have. There are reasons on either side, but that discussion is never going to happen if you go, oh, well, it's the artistic integrity of the game, it's the artistic intent. There's no... it's either for you or it's not for you. There's no discussion of what these choices mean.
Yeah, I'm just
yeah. But I will say, a part of this comes down to and when a lot of these people were kind of pinned down to justify what they're saying, it came down to them going, "You want a pause button, but if they give you a pause button and that means they're starting to listen to people outside of their own artistic integrity and their own artistic team, and that means that it'll lead to an easy mode because they're just starting to listen to you casuals, and like it's the slope argument. It's the slippery slope.
Like
that if they listen to one thing that people care about, then that means they're going to do all of them.
Like that's dumb. I mean, that's to be completely honest, dumb, because Elden Ring has had multiple things change from prior Dark Souls and Bloodborne games. Like the fact that you have a dedicated jump button, like is like one big change. Number 2, you have these Seika Marikas, which are literally like quick saves right before a boss usually. Like that by itself gets rid of like so much of the headache of a Souls game, is because you always had the run back as being a pain in the butt.
I swear to God that I'm not straw-manning any of these arguments. This is literally like I could pull up quotes of like there's no
I believe you. I believe you. I'm not saying you can't. I believe you. I'm just saying these people are idiots and they're using the quote unquote shield of artistic integrity to try and back up the argument, when at the end of the day it's just them being like, we want our game difficult because that's what we had to do in Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2. We want this game
else
to be
is
difficult.
A filthy casual.
Yeah, this is a hard game. This is for filthy casuals like you with your 9-to-5 job and 2 kids and dog and picket fence.
To me, this is the same. And not to be an armchair psychologist, but to me, this is the same concept of gamers who still think that they are an oppressed minority, like when they were kids and they were made fun of for liking games, that's the way it is in the modern day. They're going, oh yeah, no, nobody believed in Dark Souls, nobody gave credit to Demon Souls back in the day, therefore, even though we're behind one of the biggest franchises at this point, with the game that's going to be up for Game of the Year, whether it wins or not this year, we still have to defend this like we're being bullied by the rest of the industry because we're the underdogs here, when they haven't been the underdogs since, Dark Souls... even Dark Souls 2 was a success, but let's say 3 or Bloodborne is when it really became mainstream. They haven't been that in a long time.
Are we the baddies? Like, I've had issues.
Games too.
I'm
not. Go ahead, Brian. Sorry, I've been talking way too much.
Yep, that's like. This is. I mean, I know the Dark Souls games are not for me. I've attempted both Demon's Souls and Dark Souls, and after spending 5 to 10 hours on either game, I'm like, nope. This ain't for me. Nope. But I feel like this is a symptom of the fandom as a whole.
It's a symptom of the fandom as a whole, of the idea of Nintendo hard. Games were hard when we played them. We don't want games to be made easy for the babies now that it's cool to be a gamer.
I feel like this is just yet another form of, of the boys trying to, gatekeep.
It leads them in gatekeeping is basically what they're trying to do, and it's just like, no, you fucking idiots. The whole point of a game is to have fun.
I just think I think using the artistic integrity is just a flimsy shield. It's like no girls allowed.
Brian, I don't know if you saw it. I made a Facebook post, I think yesterday, which was when I was sorting through a lot of my thoughts that led to this, where I went, the Souls series of games from Software are amazing games that are held back more from the toxicity of its fan base than from any choice from actually made in any of their games.
I didn't see that post, but I will 100% agree with you there.
Yeah, I agree with that too, because the fans of the Dark Souls games in general always associate or inflate their own ego because they're the ones that are able to beat this boss or beat this particularly hard thing, because they feel accomplishment of eventually overcoming that hurdle of just the game decision and the game design of the Dark Souls games as a general, of being these brutally like you fuck up once, you're probably dead sort of game.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I do want to clarify, it's not the entire fan base. There are some very good people in the Souls fan base that are very supportive, that help people get through stuff. If you're listening to this, we're not necessarily talking about you, but you definitely know the people we're talking about.
We're talking about the vocal minority by and large.
Get good!
Because they're vocal and they feel like their opinion is important.
Get good!
This goes into the easy mode argument, which I don't want to go into, but I do want to point this out because I've brought this up to some of those people and just see their heads kind of haywire. Where I go, okay, so the point of the games is how difficult they are and how challenging they are and how you need to rise to the occasion. They're like, yes. Okay, and you've been playing them since the original Demon's Souls, right? You're an old school fan, you've been playing all of them, yes. So that means that at this point, when you're playing them, they're a lot easier now because you've been playing them for years and you're used to a lot of the stuff and you're used to a lot of the timing and you know how to do the things. Yes, I'm a great gamer. So the game is easier for you now, right? Maybe they should put in different modes of difficulty so that you can have that level of difficulty that you seem to want everybody else to have.
No, change bad, change
different
bad.
People need different levels, that different people of skill levels can have the same amount of challenge with different things. And as you get better at the game, if you want that same level of challenge, it needs to be more difficult now, right? Maybe we should have scaling difficulty in the game, where the better you are, the harder it makes it, and the not as good you are, the less hard it makes it to keep that level of challenge equal for everyone. Right?
I don't know. That might be a like Resident Evil 4 homage. I don't know if you really like that.
And I'm not saying they should do that. I'm not saying they should do that. There are arguments against it, but I'm just saying when these people are talking about that certain level of challenge, that's a way of going, okay, well, can you think about where this leads?
To be completely honest, if they want to make Dark Souls games easier, the simplest thing they could do, and I do mean the simplest thing, is just stop you from losing all of your souls on death. Like that simple change by itself lets you like solve the biggest hurdle of it, which is okay, I die, I lose all my experience basically.
Yeah.
But now that by just doing that, like introducing that for your easy mode, you can eventually out level it for all the content, for all the content and all the bosses and stuff in the game. Now, Elden Ring has the benefit of being an open world game that if you run across something that's too hard or too challenging, you just fuck off for somewhere else for 5 hours and come back and with new gear, new equipment, new spells, new whatever, and like 5 levels stronger, and you just raffle stomp through all the shit that you're finding harder.
Well, I'm gonna see how I feel because I will be starting Elden Ring the day I get back to Massachusetts. So.
All right. Oh, we have somebody in the chat. We have Wyvern. Oh, I know who you are. The Souls game seems to be designed to be inaccessible, considering you apparently can't pause in them. Then again, I'm squarely in Brian's camp where I'm certain they're not for me. I mean,
the pausing was the whole point of this.
The lack of a pause button was the whole point of the discussion. You just have to come in at the tail end of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, you missed the beginning part. So it's Ronnie's turn so far in the free play discussion, and that was what started this current topic was the lack of a pause button and the fact that the Dark Souls fans seem to think that you can't criticize that. You can't.
Yeah, the general sentiment of most of the panel seems to be the artistic integrity argument's dumb. Like, there probably should be a pause button. If you wanted to have more discourse on the idea of difficulty sliding or scaling difficulty based on AI learning, like that, there's more discussion there. But just using the argument of artistic integrity to defend the lack of a pause button is dumb.
Yeah,
I think we're all on the same page, which is amazing. I didn't expect it. By the way, Spencer, I caught that little dig earlier. Yes, there were good ideas in Resident Evil 4. I admit it.
I mean, let's keep in mind too that like for arcade modes in fighting games, like when they do the increasing difficulty, usually what they just end up doing is eventually just have the AI of the game reading the inputs that you're doing and choosing the right move in that instant of you pressing a certain button.
Yeah.
We're like literally the AI cheats, reads your input, and then does the exact right move they need to counter your move, so you eat a crap ton of damage.
It's a different subject, but it's the same concept of I hate that in fighting games. I hate rubber banding in racing games. Like, I inherently don't like it when the game lies to you, and I know that's not a popular opinion among game developers, that they see these as tricks of the trade that they use to make sure that you're enjoying a game. When I find out a game does that to me, it immediately turns me off of the game.
So,
do you have anything? We've been going on very different subjects than what I brought up originally for a while now.
All right, so that is perfectly fine. So we're gonna break out the wheel again. Thank you, Wyvern, for the follow. Well done. We're up to 4 now.
Yay!
So let's bring up the wheel again, and let's get the wheel. All right, we got Ryan, Ron, and Spencer left. Here we go. Ooh, it's gonna stop it, and it just shifts right into Ryan.
All right.
Oh, I thought I was gonna stop on Spencer.
Ooh, yay, lucky time. Well, I'm actually going to bring up a very fun and happy little topic because Brian, you and I have talked on this a little bit before, and it's one of my actual favorite games that I also play with quite a few friends on Monday nights, and just the concept of this kind of game in general. Deck builders, specifically like Dominion, Ascension that I played against you before, and then another one that I recently played called Masquerade, which was actually very, very fun to do. So, for anyone of the interwebs who has not heard of Dominion, the main thing that you're trying to do with it is you're trying to get a lot of points from cards, and the way that you do
Never play Dominion against Ronny. Never, ever, ever play Dominion against Ronny.
I own almost all the expansions, and I've trained my skills through Magic the Gathering for
Yeah,
years.
you have.
I also call these games, as you have said it before, Brian, fuck you games. And there is a very good reason, as I know, that it has earned that name. So, I honestly, I think Dominion is a little bit more of a fuck you game than Ascension is. Although both of them are still just like, oh, hey, how can I dick this guy over in the next turn? Do I have enough? Yes, I have enough. And I can say, and then of course you got the guy in the back, then you got another guy who's like, ooh, I see that card. Can I get it? Can I get it? Damn it!
I have nightmares over the Goons card in Dominion. I'll have you know. It's
It's been about 10 years since I played Dominion, so I had to refresh myself on what exactly this card game was.
Oh my god, that is the last time I played Dominion in person was when Ronny was last here. I enjoyed Dominion, but I cannot get April to play that with me ever again. So
especially when you bring out the witch card.
But this feels like a topic of this, like, eventually going to boil down into like Monopolies-esque games where it's just like, okay, I'm only having fun if someone else's misery is someone's miserable because they can't get their 5 sheep for their 1 point.
Yeah, and then Ascension. I introduced Gabe to that, and I created a freaking monster. So, but I digress. Keep going, Ryan.
Yep. So, with Dominion and Ascension, just the way things go, as I have heard many people say, those games are ways that you can lose friendships. Well, I didn't realize with Dominion, and one of my friends that I actually play it with on Monday nights, just how convoluted some of the card combos you can get. And I've seen it go where you have like 19, 20 cards that you use just to do one simple move, and like, the hell?
Oh, chaining is a great thing.
It really is.
My decks typically draw their entire deck during my turn.
Yeah, Ronny has.
This is Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Vintage. What are we talking here?
Yeah.
I'd say, ooh, that's tricky actually to put.
We're talking Ancestral Recall. That's what we're talking.
I was gonna say, because like, listen, if you're talking Magic the Gathering, there's Storm and there's
Okay, let's put it this
and
way.
Yawgmoth.
That's actually the best example. My decks in Dominion, the closest comparison to Magic the Gathering is they're basically Storm decks. They're casting as many spells as you possibly can, going through your entire deck, and basically you're just comboing off. That's what you're doing.
Yeah. So Ryan.
Yeah, that's true. And I've seen some of the weirdest combos ever in Dominion, just to get one thing that's like, you could have done it this way and a lot less convoluted than my friends say, but I like doing convoluted things. It makes it so much fun, and I just like, are you sure you do know that there's a lot easier ways? Easier isn't fun. And I'm like, do you always do this to yourself?
People play games for different reasons. Like you have the archetypes in Magic the Gathering, where you have Johnny, Spike, and Timmy.
They have a couple of new ones now.
Yeah, they have two new ones. I can't remember what their names are, though. I only remember the classics. But I mean, you definitely have the Johnny players who they want to do something convoluted. They want to show off their knowledge of the game. They like, having to combine these 8 things to do this single effect to try to do this thing. And maybe there's an easier way of doing it, but that's not what they want to do. This is what they enjoy in the game.
Yep.
It all depends on what you're trying to get out of playing, because we're all trying to enjoy playing with each other, but we also have our way of how we enjoy interacting with the game, and everybody's got their own style.
Yes.
Yep, that's true. I've seen I think I've even pulled a crazy combination where it's like one of the main things that I like to always go for, especially once you get towards like mid-late game, depending on like how many players we have, I always like to try and go for platinum and colonies, especially once we get towards the later part. And I have been known to pull off. I've never done a 20 card combo, but I have done a 10 card combo where even I'm just like, how the hell did I pull this combination off? And it somehow works, even though it seems like it shouldn't work. It's like that to me is like one of the craziest things about like Dominion that I've, with my experience with it, is that you can literally pull these cards and it's like, wait, that chains off that, and then that can chain off that, and then I just do play on like, how the hell did that work? I did not foresee that coming, and I'm like, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Well, some of the benefit of these deck building games is that you don't see the combo initially, but like your brain gets thinking into like it changes it up its thoughts processes basically, when like you can eventually learn or see like your brain subconsciously sees the interaction even before you are consciously aware of it.
And
it's one of those weird things for it, but it's probably one of the funnest things I've gotten to play, just to see either how little or just how many combinations people pull in the game.
And it's easier to pull off. I mean, like it's one of the great things, like seeing like the video game versions of these games, where you have things like little like on screen like highlights or things like that, which can help you learn, different strategies, different ways to chain, different resources that you can get with what you currently have, things like that.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. One thing I was going to point out, Brian, is you've created more than one monster. You were the one who got me started on the Dominion bug when you had me play the Resident Evil card game with you.
Ah, yes. Yes,
I have not played that
indeed. The
one
Resident
before.
Evil card, which was the Resident Evil deck building game was my introduction to deck builders, because it's basically Dominion with a Resident Evil skin.
It's Dominion with a deck of monsters. That is.
Yes, it's like after I had played games like the Resident Evil game, played Ascension, then I was introduced to Dominion, and I went, "Oh, that's where all these rules came from."
The best part of Dominion to me is the creator of Dominion has written up his thoughts, his playtesting, everything on each card that he's ever produced, and you can read all of those thoughts, design decisions, everything on his website to understand what these cards used to be, why he made these decisions. So if you are interested in tabletop game design of any kind, I highly recommend going and reading through all of his notes on there, because they are fascinating.
Oh, I did not know that the creator for that actually did that. That's actually really, really neat to hear about that.
Yep, you'll see, like, there'll be ones where he'll be talking about one from a different expansion. Go, this was actually from a previous expansion, but we ended up cutting the card because of space, so we moved it over here. Or this was based, like, this mechanic is something we've been trying to do since the base game Dominion, but we were never able to get it to work right. Like, just so much good, interesting knowledge on game design ended up in there. Like, I highly recommend, even if you're not a game design person, if you just like the game Dominion, go in and take a look at them. and just go down that rabbit hole because there's some good stuff in there.
And actually, that also brings up another thing too when it comes to game design, especially for these kind of like tabletop games. One of my favorite websites to go to, and I'll bet you that a couple of you guys have probably gone to it too, is called Board Game Arena, because that one has some like really good games on it that I've gotten to play before.
Yep, I've been there.
Yep. One of my favorite games that I actually just recently played on there, I don't know if it's technically deck building or not, but it is like the whole thing of how many points can you earn in the fastest time, although you can technically only go up to 13 with this game. The game is called Masquerade, and it has become one of my favorite games now because what you're basically trying to do in Masquerade is you're trying to bullshit the other players, because there are different kinds of cards in Masquerade, and there are different masks. So there's a trickster mask, there's a cheater mask, ironically, a judge mask, and Empress, and a few other masks. And the main thing that you're trying to do is that you're trying to switch your cards up, and then after a certain amount of rounds, you're basically are trying to bluff which mask you have. And and as I found out this past Monday with my friends that I was playing, some people are very good at bluffing. Some people, like myself, suck ass at it. And then you just have the guys who love to piss people off, and when we try going against them, it backfires in our faces.
Oh, games with bluff mechanics.
Yeah.
Like, I would love for some other board games to make it to become digital versions, because that's been something that has been really, really nice, during the plague and during isolation, is from time to time, being able to get with friends, who are great distances away and be able to play some of these. Like,
we got the benefit of Tabletop Simulator for a lot of these games too, where people have found workarounds in Tabletop Simulator to do a lot of these board games.
Yes,
it's not just even playing them out, even it's not just like having the game be purchasable outright on Steam.
Right, some of the tabletop developers have created official mods for Tabletop Simulator, and while other mods have been created, unofficial mods have been created by fans, and the people who the developers, sort of like, they're sort of like hit or miss. Like, okay, fine, even though you're using our IP, you're not making money off of it, so okay, go ahead, have your fun. But if you start making money off of this, we're gonna sue your ass.
Yeah.
And then you have other companies like Asmodee who have made actual full-blown apps, like you get Lords of Water, D&D Lords of Waterdeep, Ascension. There's for the longest time, Dominion. There was a browser version of Dominion, but now there's an official Dominion game being created. It was in early access on Steam for free.
Oh wow.
Yep.
The cool thing about that is with the most recent Dominion sets, inside of it is a card that you can use to register on that to give you that expansion.
Oh, nice! I didn't know that.
Nice. That's it. That's actually really, really cool to hear that.
Let's see, like in other games like Splendor, Catan.
Catan is a whole beast. I actually play online. As the online version is called Settlers. That we were actually able to find. A friend of mine has that. And if you want a real fuck you game and you want to piss people, you just love pissing people off, definitely play that game.
I mean, I played
Brian.
Yo.
Remember when we played Catan, but we didn't know the rules correctly and we played everything wrong?
Yes. Very much so. Like what do you mean? There's a proximity rule? God damn it.
Oh God. What the?
Oh, like the first time, like the first time I ever played Catan, we misinterpreted the proximity rule.
Oh, Jesus.
So we wound up.
It was completely different than it was meant to be played.
Yep. Like we somehow missed that. Oh man, but like But that's just I love how that this has happened during more of that. And I want to see some other games make it to digital as well, like Dead of Winter, because I very much enjoy that game. I want them like. Pandemic is one of my favorite board games. A little on the nose for our current timeline, but it is still one of my favorite board games. Gabe introduced me to Ticket to Ride, and now I can't get enough of that game, which that is on Steam. He actually gifted it to me, and well, that's been fun. My latest obsession is a game called Wingspan, which is the most relaxing, chill, competitive game I have ever played.
Just thinking about the birds, like you're like a bird ornithopter or ornithologist.
Yes, the object of the game is to try to build the best bird preserve you can within 4 rounds, and it is so relaxing and so chill and so not fuck you. So you're
gonna introduce me to any of these games when I come to visit next, Brian?
Absolutely. I will. Let's see what else is up there. Like Bob Ross's The Art of Chill game, and because sometimes like I enjoy fiercely competitive games, but also sometimes I just be like, you know what? I don't wish to fight. Let's make bird preserves. You know. Other times I want to be a railroad baron. So
I'll say one game I have yet to
that too. Because
hold on, Ryan. I think you cut Ronny off.
Oops, sorry.
It's fine. Let Ryan finish, and then I'll say what I was going to say.
Okay.
Because I was gonna say, since Brian and I are gonna be going to it this year, from what I've heard, PAX East this year is gonna be a lot more tabletop focused. So I'm hoping to see some really good things out there, whether they're like stuff like Dominion or other things like that. I'm really interested in seeing. Like,
you could go, like PAX East is both video game and tabletop, and you could spend literally your entire weekend just at the tabletop and not even look at anything video games.
You say something, Ronny?
I was just going to say one game of mine that I have not gotten a chance to play because of the state of the world in the last many years is Extra Politics from the people who did Extra Credits. I have not felt comfortable playing that game since Trump was elected.
I don't know if I want to play a game called Extra Politics. I'm kind of sick of politics.
That's where I'm going with that. Politics. It's hard to take amusement in a card game about politics at this point in time, when politics is more of a dumpster fire than it usually is.
Like, my friend Danielle wanted to introduce me to a game called Secret Hitler, and I was just like,
I heard of that game.
And within the last 5 years or so, I'm just like,
a little poor timing on that one.
I mean, here's the thing, like Secret Hitler, it's like Dominion, where so many games are based on that concept that it came from. I mean, hell, when you really get down to it, it's what Among Us is.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So sus.
So basically every game where you have some kind of spy in it is at least somewhat based on Secret Hitler, unless it vastly predates it, because that was the game that brought that concept to the forefront.
But yeah, extra politics.
Yeah.
But yes, and so Wyvern, I will see what PAX East is. Oh, nice, very, very good.
Nice.
Lovely.
Yep.
So,
and I think that's all I got for that. Just want to throw in that little fun thing, because who doesn't like a good game of Dominion or a fuck you game every once in a while?
I need to do
April.
Yeah. Not April.
Did I ruin that game for her forever?
You might have, yeah.
I'm sorry.
You might have. But whatever, be that as it may, we're going to move on. We have 2 people left. We have Spencer and we have Ron. All right, let's break out the wheel again. All right, it's just we're at Christmas colors now.
Yep.
Oh, so you actually have to go, Ryan. All right.
Yep.
Well,
so I will catch you guys later.
all right. Well, thank you so very much for stopping by, and I'll chat with you soon.
Sounds good. All right. Have a good one, everyone.
Yep.
All right. So now I gotta adjust my text again. So before we spin the wheel, let's delete Ryan. He's out. Let's see. He's consigned to the Ring of Fire. So let's move Ronny down here, and let's move Spencer over here. No, let's move Spencer over here. Live editing as we go along. All right, let's spin the wheel. And good. Here we go. Between Spencer and Ron, and it is going to be Spencer.
This is not a paid advertisement, I promise. But it might sound like it at multiple points during my speech.
Oh, because
So-
this you've told me what's coming, so I know.
Yeah. Chrono Cross is a very divisive game in the Chrono Trigger fan base for a lot of different reasons. But regardless of your take on the game, whether you think it's trash or it's better than Chrono Trigger or anywhere in between, you need to buy this game when it comes out in April. Because if we, as a community of Chrono series fans, want any new content in the series, this has to get supported. Square Enix has made this clear multiple times throughout the history of the Chrono fandom and series that it doesn't sell well enough to justify putting AAA effort into it. That's why they only do ports and re-releases of Chrono Trigger through like the worst possible options, i.e. the Steam port being based off the mobile game instead of like the 9 other better options to use.
Not anymore.
And well, not anymore, but you know, it only
yeah.
took them fucking 10 years or whatever to get there. You know, wow. Thanks for that rousingly quick reaction time. But I mean, Square Enix is notorious for making terrible PC ports in general, so that's not really specific to the Chrono series, but you know, just a general flaw of that development company in general. But yeah, like, not only is it important for supporting the Chrono series in general and getting a better chance of getting either, like, whether you want a Chrono Trigger remake or not, getting either that or something new in the franchise. It's just necessary. So, like, I see people being like, oh, I don't like Chrono Cross because, you know, too many characters. Might be true, but irrelevant to the point that, like, we need to support this series when we get the chance.
So
and also you get Radical Dreamers on top of it, which is insane because, like, you know, 99% of Chrono Trigger fans have never touched this game, and it's so much fun and it's so cute, and it's very quick and easy to consume in like an afternoon, so you don't have to dedicate a ton of time to it like you would a normal RPG. So like being able to get both is amazing, and I'm just like, it's on every platform too, so
I was when they did that Nintendo Direct last month and they pulled Chrono Cross out of their ass. That was the last thing I was expecting. Like, that entire Nintendo Direct, I never felt so much more like a targeted demographic in my life. And and you know,
I was screaming. It was amazing.
Like,
so out of left field.
Chrono Cross, and then getting Earthbound on the Switch Online service, and just like, I thought Chrono Cross was going to be one of those games. Now, I played Chrono Cross before I played Chrono Trigger because I did not know. I didn't play Chrono Trigger until college. That was when I was actually introduced to it. So I didn't know. Like, there was no indication on the box that it was a sequel to Chrono Trigger. at least, or if there was, I badly missed it. So I played Chrono Cross initially, and while I enjoyed it, I got the profound sense that they were making references to something that I had no idea.
That last hour must have been pretty weird for you.
It kind of was.
What are all these weird ghost children talking to me about stuff that they clearly know about that I have no clue?
It kind of, as I was playing Chrono Cross, I just kind of felt like the last 2 episodes of Evangelion. Like, what I was following you up until that moment. What the hell happened? So
it must have been even weirder when you finally played Chrono Trigger and you're like, well, I know how you die, I know how you die, I know you just disappeared.
Yeah, I played Chrono Trigger in college. I'm like, it's just like one of those. So, but going back to what Spencer's the point he's trying to make is like Chrono Cross came out on the PS1 and then it was like it disappeared. So watching,
I don't even know if it ever got released on any of the PlayStation's various iterations of like online network. Like,
so it did, but only in Japan.
I would play my fail sound effect right now if it would actually play in the Discord.
I've got one. It will show up on the recording. Don't worry. But it just played.
Okay.
It just played. It just the Price is Right fail horn.
So, I will go into this. Spencer, this is the first podcast where on both of our topics, you and I have actually been on the same page.
Oh my God! Call Scotland Yard.
Cursed.
Oh my God!
Well,
Chrono Trigger is one of my favorite games of all time. I don't like Chrono Cross quite as much as Trigger, but it's still a 10 out of 10 game to me. And I will absolutely be buying it, even if I wasn't going to play it, which I am absolutely going to, just because this series needs the support from everyone it can get, because like Chrono Trigger is the cult classic game, and Chrono Cross as well got looped into it. The Chrono series doesn't get the respect it deserves, and part of that is because we just have like the fans don't want to buy crappy ports, and the fans not buying crappy ports tells Square that there's no money to be made in this game. They're not taking... It's the reason why when people say, if you don't like it, you should boycott it. Well, yeah, but then sometimes the company takes the wrong idea and doesn't go, no, they're boycotting it because we did a bad job with it. They're going, well, they're just not interested in this thing, which is absolutely not true.
That's exactly the like mindset they had after the Chrono Trigger DS didn't sell to their expectations, even though they completely ignored the fact that by the time they released Chrono Trigger on the DS, the piracy for DS carts was so rampant that like you didn't even most people didn't even buy DS carts. They just would pirate them because it was like 1,000 times easier to do.
Definitive version of the game. That DS version.
I mean, I tend to agree, except for the sound. The sound is a little weird on the DS version compared. Like you would never notice it if you just listen to the DS version, but like when you listen like to both, there's definite like just I'm not like musically inclined enough to know like the proper terms to use to describe the differences, but like there is a distinct tonal difference that like doesn't make it worse in any like true sense, but it certainly doesn't sound as good as it did on the Super Nintendo sound chips. But
that
yeah, like
I can buy that. I'm not a huge music person, so it's not something I would probably have noticed.
Sure, yeah, no, I mean, honestly, I didn't even really notice it myself until people that were more musically inclined than me brought it up, and then I actually sat down there because I have all the copies, and I did listen to them, and it is slight, but you know, like again, like it's not going to take away from your experience. If anything, the thing I thought was the biggest flaw of the DS version was the whole extra dinosaur content where you were like, doing all these weird fetch questy pointless missions that added nothing to anything at all, because like the gear you got didn't really make you like any more stronger, and the story plot of it was irrelevant.
I like the bonus extra secret boss at the end and the story that went along with that, but yes, that fetch quest dungeon could have been cut in half and it still would have felt long.
Yeah, I liked all the extra, like the temporal bosses. Those were cool. But
yeah,
no, like that section alone. Like the other thing, the little monster fighting game that they added into, like that was fine. Like it was like whatever. Like I pretty much ignored it after like 2 hours because it was pretty, just like it was so vanilla to me. It's just like I was like, why am I doing this still?
I feel like the problem with the Chrono Trigger and the Chrono Cross series is you need competent writers to handle the plot structure of both those games. And while they pulled it off, like this is going to leave for Chrono Trigger, I feel like with Chrono Cross specifically, because you had so many characters, it pulled away from the core plot of what was going on in that game, and you kind of like lost in the weeds basically for Chrono Cross.
Well, I think not to drive too deep into the lore of what happens in Cross and like all the implications and ramifications of the events that occur, but like they could pretty easily just like explain away everything that happened in Cross and be like, that happened in that dimension over there, and like here's the timeline now that's all fixed, don't worry about it. And like
yes, absolutely.
Like, the Chrono Cross's plot can easily be summed up as multiple timeline splits because people fuck with time to the point where time ruptured.
Kind of, yeah. It's more like
it's part of it.
It's more like Shala's really stupid and an overrated character, and it's like really makes a lot of bad decisions. But you know, whatever.
I mean, Chrono Cross has a lot of issues, but to me, none of those issues overshadow how good of a game it was. The game tried hard. It dreamed bigger than a lot of things at the time, and it tried a lot of things, and it didn't hit it out of the park on all of them. But it hit it out of the park in enough of them that it is a very memorable game overall.
Yes.
And this is coming from somebody who, like, I was one of those people who, when it came out, I didn't play it. I was a huge fan of Chrono Trigger, and I'm like, this isn't Chrono Trigger. This is not what a friend of mine had it. I watched the first couple hours of it, and I was like, this isn't what I wanted. It wasn't until several years later that I was like, you want to know what? I love Chrono Trigger. I love Square RPGs. I'm just going to sit my ass down and go, you want to know what? This might not be Chrono Trigger. I'm just going to ignore that it's called Chrono Cross. This is a Square RPG I've never played. Let's just sit down and have some fun.
I feel like
I loved it.
I feel like also a knock against Chrono Cross that it came out very late in the PS1 life cycle. And I feel like
so did Chrono Trigger. Like
yeah,
that's like Square Enix's thing is like they love, or I guess Square at the time, but like both games came out at like basically the 11th hour of the life cycles of those consoles.
And that's part of why they didn't sell as well as they could have, because games that come out late when other systems are already out or about to come out tend to have a bad time.
Yeah.
Yes, like so as an example, like Chrono Cross came out in North America August 15th. The PS2 came out in North America October 26th. 2020, obviously. But or not 2020, 2000. Chrono Trigger came out 1995, March 11th. And the PlayStation was already out in Japan and was releasing in North America 6 months later.
Yeah, and by that point, the N64 was like pretty much a guaranteed thing. Like by the fall of '95, like that's all anybody was talking about in terms of Nintendo frontage.
Yep.
And again, like PlayStation was on its way, if not already here at that point.
It's so sad. So many good games, because when you get to that late in lifespan, the companies have nailed down how the system works, how to best use the system, how to best program this stuff, and how we can push it in ways that we've never seen before. So you get some of the most creative games at the end of a system's lifespan, and then those games never get the sales and credit they deserve. Little Samson on the NES is the exact same thing. And you can name a dozen games at the end of each system's lifespan that would have done better. The only exceptions that I have are for systems that were backwards compatible, because then that game at the end of the system's lifespan can still be a starting title on the next system. Please make the next Switch backwards compatible.
That's, but yeah, I am looking forward. That Chrono Cross that's going to be a day one. That is going to be a day one purchase, and I'm probably going to do, because I haven't played Chrono Trigger in years, so I'm probably going to play Chrono Trigger again and go right into Cross. So
I would say this: if you've played Cross before, play Radical Dreamers first.
Yes.
If the game allows it. I'm not sure if you have to unlock Radical Dreamers first or if you can play it right off the rip. I don't know how that works yet. I haven't looked into it, but if you played Cross before, I would say play Radical Dreamers. And in your case, Brian, just do it in release order. Like start with Trigger, then do Dreamers, then do Cross.
Yeah,
but if you've never played Cross before, I'd play Cross first, because it's a lot easier to appreciate Radical Dreamers once you've experienced Cross first, because so much of Cross is embedded in Radical Dreamers, and you won't really get as much of that when you're playing Cross if you play Dreamers first, because you're going to be so the plot moves in very weird ways in Cross, so you might not really catch all the stuff that it's alluding to, because Radical Dreamers takes place in such a small chisel of the overall story of Cross that it's
yeah,
you'll see.
I second everything Spencer said.
Yeah,
I agree wholeheartedly.
I am looking forward to diving back into this, because it's been a long time, and yes, so yes, absolutely show that support. Thank you, Wyvern. Yes, you're gonna third that as well. Excellent, wonderful. That was one of the last games I expected Nintendo to announce in that direct.
And I'm amazed that Nintendo got the announcement for that, because again, it's on everything. It's not like it's only on Switch.
Right.
It's on every available console. So it's it was such a grab for them to even get that in that direct and have it not be something that Square announced on its own or whatever.
Well, I feel like
I
it
think they
benefits
expect the
Nintendo
most-
because Nintendo is actually kind of lacking on the RPG side right now, and even getting a port of a cult game would benefit Nintendo specifically more so than it would Microsoft or Sony.
I think they expect the majority of their sales to come from the Switch, and I would not be surprised at all about that.
I mean, I was gonna buy it on Switch until I realized I can stream it, so I probably will just buy it on Steam so I could do that instead.
I mean, if you have a capture card, you can also stream it from Switch as well, but
No, I don't. I have no way of capturing HD consoles.
Not yet, you don't.
Well, no, not yet, but as of now, I only can capture my retro stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, that Nintendo Direct was just pure heat. That was so good.
I couldn't believe it, and just I'm sure with the Earthbound thing and then Cross, and then I think that same day Futurama was was also announced.
Oh my God.
You must have been just sobbing tears of pure joy.
Personal context on top of that, I PB'd that night.
That's right. I remember that.
That was when I got sub 2.
That's right.
That was when I got sub 2. It was that was the most emotionally absurd 24-hour stretch of my life.
Oh my!
Getting, all that news and then being sub 2.
That's right. I remember that.
Which is probably another reason why the game has been so mean to me. It's
it's okay. You're now under 2 hours for Resident Evil 4. That's it. That's it. But yes, I do plan. I don't know which platform I'm going to get it on, Switch or Steam. I mean, if the price is right, possibly both. I don't know. Going against my usual only own one copy of a game.
And if you're on the fence at all, because of what you heard about Chrono Cross, it is flawed. This game has like some issues. Like, you know, there's a lot of characters, but a lot of them are kind of interchangeable. You know, they say similar shit, but they just say it differently. Like they all have accents.
Yeah.
So, but like in terms of things you absolutely should play the game for, one, the soundtrack, one of the top 5 greatest soundtracks, period. And 2, just like the general art style, even though it's not like the way Chrono Trigger's art style was made with the whole like Toriyama effect and all that, it's still like a very visually beautiful game. And, you know, because it was so late in the cycle of the PS1's, you know, life, it really like pushes the edges and boundaries of what the PS1 is capable of. So like it's very, it really deserves that remake so you can get that updated visuals to really show how detailed everything is in the game.
Didn't Chrono Cross run at like 24 FPS?
I'm not sure, actually. That's a good question. I wouldn't be surprised because that game definitely doesn't move quick.
I was gonna say Ron is absolutely right. The game was pushing itself graphically farther than the system wanted to go.
I was gonna say, I thought that was one of the knocks against it. Was like the reason why I think it was so slow is because it ran 24 FPS, and that's the reason why people didn't. One of the knocks against it was because of that. Now, if they solved that problem and had it run at 30, even 60, like that solves like one of the biggest knocks I remember playing the game was like I felt so slow playing this game.
Yeah,
So,
that's one of the biggest like transitions going from Trigger to Cross is like Trigger is so fast and fluid, and like the game like is so seamless. You go from like battle to the screen back to the battle, and it's like bam, bam, bam. But like Cross, it's like. Like I feel like Surge is always huffing and puffing as he's like trudging along because he's just like always out of breath. That's how
Just
slow.
wielding those freaking double twin blades that are twice the size of him. That's why it's so out of breath.
It'll feel better playing it at a normal speed. One thing I will point out, since we're talking about the Chrono series, is if any of you guys don't want to wait for Chrono Cross on that, you can always go and play the mobile game Another Eden, which has a crossover with Chrono Cross right now. It's really good.
Also, a slight correction. Chrono Cross, I don't know if it's still there, Chrono Cross was on the North American PlayStation 3 store as well. It came out
I believe the PS3 store is closed now. They took it down.
Pretty sure it is.
Like, they took the game down, but the store is still active. You have a PS3, you can still,
Yeah, if you have the games, if the game's still downloaded on your PS3, you can still play it, but you can't like buy a PS3 and then go on the store and buy it and download it because the store's not active anymore.
Like I thought Sony
they reversed the decision.
Yeah, like Sony went back on that.
Oh, they did. Oh, okay. I was mistaken.
Yes,
PS3. They announced PSP, PS3, and PS Vita would shut down, and then because of the backlash, they kept it up on PS3 and PS Vita. The only one of the stores that closed is the PSP,
which is the stupidest one to close because that format was so bad. Like those things broke constantly. That's like the one format you need to preserve digitally, and they're like, nah, bye.
I agree, but yes.
It came out on the PlayStation Network store on PS3 in July 2011 in Japan, came over to North America 4 months later, because I'm like, wait a minute, because I remember when Sony initially announced that they were shutting down the store on PS3, I had a boatload of PlayStation Network credit, and I went, oh crap, what PS1 games have I not re-downloaded? And Cross was there, and I'm like, yoink, let's get that.
Cue yakety sacks with a montage
basically.
Of Brian frantically downloading dozens of video games.
I'm like, I still have my physical PS1 Chrono Cross discs, but I was just like, you know what? Nope, do the thing.
So I wasn't going to, but actually I will. I will take the floor for 30 seconds to go. If any of you hadn't heard of what I mentioned a second ago, Another Eden, which is a mobile game made by Masato Kato, who was the director of the Chrono series, as well as several other veterans from the Chrono series. It is an amazing single-player phone game It does have gacha in it, but it is not exploitative, and the best characters are not from the gacha, and you can complete the entire game without ever touching it. Including getting Surge, Kid, and Harley from Chrono Cross as characters that have their own full plot line, which is really good. I actually highly recommend it to anybody. It's basically the only mobile game I play.
Yes, I just
because it's a single player RPG. It's a traditional Square RPG that just happens to be a mobile game.
And I just saw the comment made by Wyvern, a Chrono crossover, you might say. Yes, I see.
Yes,
I see the pun. I know the puns. They are.
It also has a crossover with Persona 5, and you can get like 5 or 6 members of that crew, and they're some of the best characters in the entire game with their own full plot line. And none of their crossovers like this are time exclusive. None of the content in the game is time exclusive. You can play it whenever you want. The first time exclusive thing they've ever done is Chrono Cross, and I believe they have it licensed for the game for I think 10 years.
All right, so do the thing.
You got 10 years to finish things.
To roll back to when we were talking about Dark Souls, Persona is another fandom that makes it hard to want to get into that series. As someone who's never played Persona, anytime I interact with a heavy Persona fan, I'm like, I can play something else. I'm good. Like,
I love the Persona games, and I absolutely understand. There's a reason I never got into the fandom.
Like, the summary of that was like when Neo: The World Ends With You came out, and every Persona fan was like, this is a Persona 5 ripoff. And I'm like, Shibuya is a place that exists in real life. Persona didn't invent it. Please go touch some grass.
Also, the original The World Ends With You doesn't predate the Persona series. It predates Persona 5.
Yes. And is
by a long time.
Yeah.
That was a day one release for me, and once again, just like with Chrono Trigger, we're probably never going to see any more of it because Neo did not sell as well as they wanted it to, which I don't what are Square's expectations for some of these games? Because it can't have cost them that much to make Neo: The World Ends With You. Really?
If you remember E3, or the E3 timeline, like that time, Square was promoting their Guardians of the Galaxy game instead of talking about Neo 12E at all. If you go back and look over the year period before Neo 12E was released, Square basically didn't even acknowledge that the game was coming out. So again, Square doesn't promote their games.
Okay, to be fair, Guardians of the Galaxy ended up being a pretty decent game, so I'm not gonna knock them for that.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, like, if you are promoting a game that comes out later over a game that comes out sooner, and then you're complaining about the sooner game not performing well, that's on you for not promoting it, not on the game for not performing to your sales expectations when you just, expect people to know about it when you don't talk about it.
Even original World Ends With You was a little funky in how they promoted it and, the ties for it. I beat the original World Ends With You. I enjoyed the hell out of that game, but even I would admit that that game was not marketed or is not aimed at a general audience. You had to be a very specific fan of that art style and the game, not even gameplay, because the gameplay was pretty unique too. But you had to be a pretty fan of that art style to really get into that game. In my
nice to meet you. I'm a big fan of that art style. It's one of my top games of all time.
Hold on, it's Nomura. That's a
but the thing is, we make fun of Nomura's art style now, but back then it was still it was, even back then people were making fun of his poofy shoes and 7 belt buckles and 5 zippers. And and I'm saying this after he had wild success with Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 2.
Ugh. Well, now Nomura's evolved into giving us Force Ghosts we weren't asking for, so, at least he's evolving with the times.
But that's the thing, though. They seem to expect these games. I'm specifically referring to Neo: The World Ends With You, but I feel like they have the same expectation with Chrono Cross, and that is they expect these games to make AAA sales, but they aren't putting AAA money behind the development of the game or AAA marketing behind the sale of the game. Because nobody can tell me Neo The World Ends With You cost them as much as any of their AAA games. Nobody can tell me that, and I love the game.
I'm seriously, because I'm curious. I wonder what cost them more to make, Neo World Ends With You or Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster.
Ooh, that's probably pretty close. I would say it's within $1 million of each other.
It's pretty similar.
And that's kind of my point. Is like your Pixel remasters are dirt cheap to make, and you're expecting those. Like, you're expecting Neo to sell better than your Pixel remasters. Like, why? Why do you have that high of an expectation?
Exactly. That's my point. Is like they have such a bad understanding of their content and like how they could be so much more successful as a company than they are if they just like actually sat down in a room for 20 minutes and were like, this franchise gets this expectation. This franchise instead of being like, we have Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, and we assume everything has to sell that well, or it's shit. The end.
It feels like they kind of do have a different expectation, but the thing is, they need to be comparing these games to the Bravely series or I Am Setsuna or some of their smaller things, because that's closer to, in budget, what Neo or like what Neo The World Ends With You would have actually cost. Not comparing it to Final Fantasy 15 sales, or Endwalker, or Dragon Quest 11. That was my first Dragon Quest, by the way. That was a pretty good game.
And I think
my first Dragon Quest was Dragon Warrior. What?
I started with Final Fantasy back then. I didn't even know what Dragon Warrior was. I didn't until much later, and I never got into it when I was young, so I never ended up touching the series. It wasn't like I'm a fan of this and I can't be a fan of this. It was just like, by the time I even knew what Dragon Warrior was, I was already on systems outside of the NES.
But it was free with Nintendo Power. It was free.
I had Nintendo Power, but I think I got that after the free one was...
Oof.
My first Dragon Warrior games were the Dragon Warrior 1 and 2 bundle on the Game Boy Color.
My entry point to that series was 8.
Oh God, I'm surprised you played any more of them after
that. And then I wound up playing all of them.
Yeah.
Do you like 30 hours for the halfway point? Yay.
I was gonna say, to be fair, Dragon Quest 8 had the benefit of coming bundled with Final Fantasy. Was it 12?
It came with a 12 demo when it was released on PS2.
Yeah, like that was half the selling point, was being able to get a demo of Final Fantasy 12 for it.
Yeah, but at the time I already owned Final Fantasy 12. So.
I know.
Merchandising.
You know, but
merchandising.
Yeah, I mean, I started with 11. I really enjoyed it. I went back to Dragon Quest 1, played that, and I'm going to be continuing through the series. I'm trying to complete one of them a year.
All right. But, yeah, like, just, I'm going all the way back to Spencer's original point there. I will be in the camp that supports Chrono here. So,
yeah, please give stupid Square Enix your money this time, and then you can go back to however you feel about them, whether it's good or bad. But this one time, please pay them.
I will be picking it up day one. I will be pre-ordering it the moment I can pre-order it.
I'm surprised you're not able to do that now.
Are up yet.
Because it's coming out soon.
Well, when they announced it, I checked and pre-orders weren't up yet. They might be up at this point, and I'll have to look at that.
Although, if any of you out there have never played Chrono Trigger, it is currently on sale on now that the Steam version is finally polished to where it should be. It is 50% off on Steam right now, and will be for the next
new
week.
Update came out, 2 days ago?
Yes.
No, yesterday, on its birthday.
Yesterday.
By the way. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's like super ultra widescreen. What was it, like 21.9
21.9
or something? Yeah,
21.9.
I like saw a picture of someone who actually had that monitor size, and it was like just like super huge overworld.
Yeah,
that is
over-
that's my
looked
monitor
great.
size, so I got to try it out.
Yeah, it's you can now play Cruncher in super wide screen.
Hey,
Oh my God.
that ultra wide screen is super useful when I'm playing Final Fantasy 14.
No. I'm not knocking. I mean, I've got like between my two monitors here, I could just
I want to see the bike race on the widescreen. That's gonna look fantastic.
Yes,
Oh.
Yes, it is.
yes. So it is. Chrono Trigger is on sale for a week at 50% off.
I got Spencer. I have a question for you, but everybody else can respond as well. If Chrono Cross does amazingly, if it sells gangbusters, what do you think we're going to see first? A sequel to the Chrono series or a remake of Chrono Trigger?
Knowing Square,
Not what do you
probably
want,
a
what do you
remake.
think is more likely?
I think a remake's way more likely of Chrono Trigger, just because, like was said earlier, with just like the story being super complicated, and like unless you got Kato, who's like, is he freelance or is he with? I forget where Kato is working technically right now, but I know he's not with Square. So like, and
he's doing another Eden. That's his. He's with that company doing that. He is currently freelance, and he has said because he's always asked Chrono questions because another Eden is a Chrono Trigger successor, and he has said he is open to coming back to work on it as a freelancer.
I mean, as long as he like doesn't just like murder everybody because he can again, that'd be fine. But I feel like that's probably the most likely scenario, just because it's they're more focused on Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, and then they also have like the Final Fantasy VII remake that they've got to that's like basically a new franchise at this point as well, with the amount of time they're putting into it. I mean, we still have literally heard nothing about the next chapter of the game, and it's been like what, almost 3 years.
And we won't until the sun goes supernova.
Yeah.
at this present rate. Wyvern has linked into the chat an article from Kotaku about how Square Enix is impossible to please. So
yeah. I mean, here's the thing, like, as much as we talk about Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, they do have a lot of other high-profile things. I mean, Life is Strange is Square Enix.
Yes.
Yeah, they also have Naughty Robots Near.
Yep. Yes, they do.
They also
yes,
have
they do.
some.
So they
also have new IPs coming out relatively soon too. It's not like they're not trying new stuff. It's just their expectations on these things are like unreasonable. They're expecting like 5 million plus sale numbers for
I don't know
these games, and they should be expecting with 20 a quarter of that, if that.
I don't know if this is true, but I kind of view it as this. They have a clear delineation between new IPs that they are willing to pump money into and not necessarily make returns because they're trying to build those IPs, and then their classic IPs that they expect to be money makers for everything else. So any old IP that isn't a money maker is just kind of pushed to the side. They don't consider, even if they make a profit on it, they need to be making enough of a profit to support the other side of the business where they're trying to make new IPs. And it's disappointing because some of these IPs were never built big enough at the time. The World Ends With You is the example I'll give. It's not the only one. There's a bunch of Square games that we could use. But The World Ends With You didn't get enough support on marketing. It didn't sell as well as it could have here. But it has a lot of potential. And they could definitely build that into something. But they're not willing. It feels like they want the fans to do their job for them. They've. How many times have you heard this from Square Enix? If you want to see more in this series, you better buy this. Get your friends to buy this. Get your family to buy this. Buy copies for everyone you know. That's kind of the way Square's talked about all of their old franchises for a long time now.
My rebuttal
we shouldn't have to do your marketing for you.
Yeah, we shouldn't have to do your marketing for you.
That's why Spencer brought this up, but we shouldn't have to. Sorry, Ron.
I was gonna say, it's just like, why can't they just take what they did with Octopath Traveler and do it with like all of their 2D games? Like, why can't you just go back to NES, Super NES, take all your library of games from there, and just give them the Octopath Traveler treatment? Like, that's.
But they did to the Final Fantasy VI remaster in 2 scenes.
And that's like.
They did it. They did it to the opera scene and they did it to that opening, and that was it.
And I'm just like, you idiots realize that that's all you have to do. Octopath Traveler just prove what you need to do. You just don't want to do it for some dumb reason.
If they just went through their old catalog and just Octopath Traveler each of them and released them as a definitive version of the game, they would sell so much money from each of those that they could fund all of the bullshit that they wanted to.
They really could. And it's just like the art, not necessarily the art style, but the execution that they did with how Octopath Traveler looks proves you can have a quote-unquote pixel HD game in the modern day setting and still have it function.
Not just Octopath, because that's the same style that Triangle has.
Yeah, Triangle's not the same style, and I mean, Triangle only came out like a week ago, so I don't know how it's been like received. I think it's been doing okay in terms of reviews.
Well, critically, it has done gangbusters. It is
I believe it's in the 90s. The last time I saw it was in the 90s on Meta.
Yeah, for reviews, in my opinion, I think the reason why we're not seeing more about sales numbers is because it came out a week after Elden Ring. People are still in the Elden Ring haze.
That definitely hurt Horizon.
Yeah, that's
regardless of what anybody thinks about the game, coming out directly before Elden Ring definitely was not a good choice for any game.
Yeah. Well,
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I haven't played any of those games ever.
All right.
It's kind of funny because between you have Elden Ring, Horizon, and Pokemon. As of right now, that's the number 1, number 2, number 3 game for sales this year.
We could do a whole episode about that Pokemon game. That was a game that completely changed the game of Pokemon.
Yeah. So here's the thing about Pokemon. Pokemon is, I believe, number 3 out of the 3 of them, but it is the only one that we don't have digital sales for. It is number 3 only based on physical sales, while the other 2 include digital sales.
That's also the only one that's console exclusive.
Yeah. No, Horizon's console exclusive. Well, okay. Horizon is on PC as well. It is exclusive to a single console.
Forbidden West is console exclusive. It is not
Forbidden West is still PS4 and PS5.
Yeah, it is not on PC.
Oh, that's not on Xbox? I didn't realize that. I thought it was
No.
on Xbox.
That is a
Sony
Sony
exclusive.
IP. That's a Sony IP.
Yep.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, but Pokemon could be number 2 or number 1 depending on how big its digital sales numbers are, because Nintendo doesn't release digital sales numbers.
No, Nintendo's still trying to figure out what internet is. So, there's that.
God damn it, Nintendo.
Yeah.
Every time. But yeah, no, I mean, but that's a whole... I feel like, especially if we get Breath of the Wild 2 this year, which is supposed to be, that's what they said, or Silksong.
I cannot see them releasing Breath of the Wild 2 this year.
They said 2022. That doesn't mean it won't be pushed because of the pandemic and everything else that happened, but as of right now, 2022 is the last date they gave us.
Yeah, we've got 9 months to go.
I am of the opinion that if you're Nintendo, you push Breath of the Wild 2 back 2 months so that you don't have to have it be within the same year as freaking Elden Ring, which is probably going to be your game of the year.
Meanwhile,
as things stand right now.
Unless something else major happens, they don't have a big holiday release, because the new Pokemon games are not coming out during the holiday period. They're coming out earlier.
They've already said too that the next Pokemon game is going to be an open world game too. Think off the success of Arceus or whatever the hell it's called.
So like the assumption right now is that Breath of the Wild 2 is their holiday release unless they announce something else to fill that hole. Because right now, there's nothing. And since they said 2022, that seems to be the assumption until we're told otherwise. That's the assumption is that's their Christmas release this year.
You can't.
I was gonna say, when was Splatoon 3 supposed to come out? Did we get a date for that?
June.
Yeah, summer.
Okay. I was gonna
So,
say,
like-
that's
so,
probably
like,
the
you
only other big title that they have this year.
So you.
I mean,
like
I would be
like,
fine if they pushed that to Christmas, but I don't. They haven't said anything about it.
I can't see them releasing a Mario game just yet. They just released Dread, which is like they're putting out an update for Dread. They're giving DLC to Dread. When was the last time you expected Nintendo to do fucking support for a Metro game after the initial release of it?
I am a fan of what Nintendo's been doing with their DLC. Like, they have been doing exceptionally for a lot of the stuff on the Switch.
Yeah, like the Arceus update, that was,
Yep.
I mean, I don't know if you would really technically call that DLC, but that was a lot of extra new content that, for the most part, was pretty fun.
Well,
Nintendo's doing DLC right.
for a change.
According
Yes.
to Wyvern in the chat, new Pokemon games are most likely November. They said fall 22, and the last few Pokemon games have been November. So that's
So what would be would it be? It won't be Sword and Shield. It's going to be remakes of Black and White, correct? Or is that?
No, it's the new ones they announced, isn't it?
Gen
Scarlet
9.
and Violet.
Gen 9. Like
Oh,
actual
dude,
Gen 9.
fucking Gen. Oh my god! All right.
Yep. Scarlet
Gen-
and Violet. They just announced it.
Basically, what I suspect it'll be is a combination of Sword and Shield and Legends Arceus, where they have like the battle aspects initiated with Sword and Shield, like minus the Dynamax stuff, because they'll introduce some other new gimmick for that for the new gen. But like it'll be a lot like that battle wise, but the world play will be like Legends Arceus, where you just roam around and then you'll just go from town to town and do your thing.
I want it to be that. I don't know if it's going to be. I think the next game is going to be. I think because this was in development while Arceus was in development, and they didn't know how Arceus was going to be received.
Oh come
I don't
on,
think they're
dude!
gonna-
You played
I mean,
that
I'm
game
pretty-
for
I've been-
5 minutes, and you know that everybody's gonna love it. Like,
I'm pretty sure.
I know that. Do they know that though?
Yes,
I'm pretty
yes.
sure the fans have been
Yes.
saying make an open world Pokemon game since freaking X and Y.
yes, but
I started
will it have mouthful mode?
Like since GTA 3 came out and like invented the sandbox gameplay is like when people started like, yeah, Pokemon, do it.
I started with that's where I want them to go, Spencer. I absolutely will be happy if they go that way. I'm just hedging my bets that I don't know if we're going to see what they learned from Arceus until the next Pokemon game after, because this had to be in development during it. So I don't know how much they're going to take from Arceus or this one. But I could be absolutely wrong, and I will be happy if I am.
I feel like Arceus is the beta. You know what I mean? Because they cut out so much of like the traditional Pokemon gameplay from Arceus to focus on all the new gameplay elements that they wanted to try out and like, really perfect. So that once they got to Gen 9, they knew that they could put it in and it wasn't going to be, oh, let's spend all our dev time tweaking this. They'd know that it's worked because they already established that it works. And then they can really implement the battle stuff and to get it all up to date and even Steven. So that's how I feel why it's such a quick release date. Because like when they initially announced that it was Gen 9, I was like, how the fuck did they even get this all together? Because, they had the Gen 4 remakes.
You're also assuming Game Studios has been a competent gaming company, and I don't know about you, but between like X and Y and Sword and Shield, they've not been very competent.
Well, okay, but okay. The Diamond and Pearl were outsourced to an external studio, and then Arceus was the because Pokemon has 2 teams. Arceus was the second team, so it's not like them working on a new Pokemon game during it was an issue. It's what they would have been doing normally.
And I disagree. I
Unless
think Gen 8 is significantly better than Gen 6 or 7. I think it's definitely much, much better and in the right direction where
What, Sword
Pokemon
and
needs
Shield?
to be going. Yeah.
Sword and Shield is one of my favorite of the franchise, though. And I've played almost all of them at this point. I still have to play Black and White 2, which is the next thing on my list.
Ooh, enjoy the hell out of that. Oh man.
I loved Black and White, so.
I don't know. I wasn't too thrilled behind Sword and Shield. I thought they took, in my opinion, the updates and changes they did to it should have been done like a generation ago already.
Well, sure, but they finally did it. I mean, like, you can definitely.
Yeah, I'm not gonna give them credit for turning in late homework. Okay.
Wait, but this is the same concept as when somebody's been like taking to themselves, and then you come out and your family goes, "Oh, well, you finally decided to come out with the rest of us." Don't punish the behavior you want to see. If they're finally doing what you want them to do, don't shame them for it.
Yeah, it's like you asked for it and then they give it to you and you're like, well, you didn't give it to me when I wanted it, so it sucks. Like, no, you still like it. You're just mad because they didn't give it to you in a timely fashion.
No,
like,
I'm mad because they knew that they could have been doing this back even on the Wii U and they chose not to.
Yeah, but the Wii U sold like trash, and that's why they were like, nah, we'll just stick with the 3DS, and then we'll wait till see what happens with the Switch. Because, like,
honestly,
why would they want to limit their sales like that? You know what I mean? Because, like, they're focused on one console only. It's not like they can go dump off on the the Steam if they don't sell well. You know, like, oh, we need to make more sales, we'll put it on PC now. Like, they don't have that option, so they have to pick the better console.
Pokemon is a mobile franchise, so until the Switch combined their mobile and their console markets, I was fine with it being like it is their flagship mobile franchise. It is what got people to buy their mobile ones. Like, could they have brought it to consoles during an earlier era, let's say the Wii era? Yeah, but they definitely would have sold less DSs. Like, without a doubt, they would have sold less DSs.
There would have probably never been a 3DS if Pokemon had been on the Wii and not the DS.
I don't think we will ever see a mainline console, mainline home console exclusive Pokemon. We will either see it on a hybrid system like the Switch, or going back to a pure mobile system if they're idiots and decide that they want to split their markets again, which I think would be a terrible decision. I think the Switch is the smartest thing they've ever done, but Nintendo's known for making terrible decisions.
Oh, they
so
are!
I wouldn't be
they are!
Nintendo is like the Jedi. Once they get too powerful, they just, like, wipe themselves out by default. They become lemmings, and it's just like, oh, jeez.
Well, Nintendo is... Okay. People are gonna... This is gonna come out wrong because Nintendo has billions of dollars and everything else. Nintendo is best when they are the underdog. When they are in a bad position, that's when they come out strong. That's why they keep going from a weak console to a strong console in this wave. Because they're not great when they're on top. Which is why I'm nervous for what comes after the Switch.
Yeah, like, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, when
nothing will come after the Switch. It'll just be slow updates of the Switch for 20 years.
I was going to say, more than likely what's going to end up happening is that the Switch Pro people have been asking and clamoring for is going to be delayed to the point where it's just going to be Switch 2 Electric Boogaloo, and it's just going to be a slightly thicker Switch with an OLED screen,
which, by the way,
3 hours of battery life.
I'm calling it now Super Switch. That's what they're going to name it. It's
and the way they're going to shoot themselves in the foot with the next, the next Switch, if that comes to that, is that they're going to make it not backwards compatible with the other Switch titles.
If they do a Super Switch, they have to release a Mario Paint sequel with the shitty mouse and like the old school mouse pad.
Don't forget releasing it with like some dumb. Super Mario World came bundled with the Super Switch, right? So that means you're going to have Mario bundled with the Super Switch then?
Yeah, Mario Odyssey 2 would have to come out with the Super Switch, like, for free, like, not adding to the price, like just console price only.
Power Glove 2.
I expect them, when they come out with their Switch sequel, to replicate what they did with the original Switch. I expect them to have one big title, and then Mario Kart and Smash all in a short period of time, and then they'll just keep doing DLC.
I was going to say,
for
but
Mario Kart and Smash.
there's a problem with that, though. There's a very big problem with that. It's going to take Nintendo probably another 7 years before they release another Smash game.
I don't think so.
Yes.
Yeah,
so-
I do, because there's no way in hell. How in the hell are you going to release a new Smash game when the previous game had 97 playable characters?
And when did that come out?
You just don't include
2014?
Yeah, you just don't
Yeah.
include all those characters.
And
all the
let's-
extra
and let's-
DLC guys you just
Yeah.
dump. You might
You don't
keep
have
one or
to.
two
You
of
don't
them.
have to one up what you had every single time.
Yeah, but
You
this
have to
is
do something
Nintendo.
different.
This is Nintendo. They always try
Let's
to
put it
one up
this way.
themselves.
It'll be
You got to do what Soul Calibur does and just like wipe the slate clean every release, and then have like a few new people every year that like suckers them in, because you get like the girl thirst with Geralt and then the boy thirst with 2B, and like that was perfect for the recent Soul.
I mean, let's
recent
put it this way: we're looking at earliest, I would say 2024 for a Switch 2 at earliest, and that's going to be 10 years at that point since Smash. Like, that's enough time for them to.
In my opinion, the earliest we're going to see a new Smash is 2025.
I was gonna say I see Smash and Kart coming out with the Switch 2, and then them just porting those two games the entire life of the console with DLC. And then there'll be one other big release, whether it's Zelda or whether it's Mario, or like they'll have a headline title and then those two, and then those will be their headlines for their first year.
At this rate, it'll probably be Prime 4.
Yeah, I mean that's why I said
timing will
a big
work out.
title. If Prime is ready at the time, absolutely Prime.
It's like I feel like obviously it can't really be another Zelda title because Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be out soon.
Yeah.
And like, you know, they would have to turn
I
another
feel-
Zelda game around pretty quickly, which is
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
usually what they do.
I feel like it's probably going to be Odyssey, but I'm totally fine if it was if Metroid's ready. If it was Metroid, I kind of feel like it's going to be, if not Odyssey 2, then a new Mario.
Okay, here's a brain twister for you. The headliner for your new Switch console is Pokemon.
Man, I would be on board with that.
If it was the Pokemon MMO that they should have made, like when MMOs were created, then like yeah, probably.
Yeah, Pokemon MMO is the headliner because you can visit all the regions now, and you choose your starting region, then you battle through your gyms, and then you're
Honestly, here I could see
Pokemon
the
and Walker.
headline for that. I could see the headline for that not being a new gen Pokemon. I could see it being the next Legends game.
Not to
Arceus
mention
has done
just
so
being
well.
able to, like,
you know,
being able
You know
to
they're gonna come out
re-meet
with
all the like gym leaders and champions and stuff that people are like all fans of, that like you don't ever get that content, you know, like once
Isn't
like
that what Black and White 2 is? Don't you do like a regional one where you fight champions from the different regions?
well, yeah, you fight them, but I'm saying like you can have like story, you know, missions where you like oh hey, here's this Pokemon gym leader from this region that's like needs your help, and you guys can go do some dumb mission together, and like you
Well,
just
like,
I was just
well,
gonna say that always sounded like I said, I haven't played Black and White 2 yet, but that's always sounded like such a cool idea of being able to fight the champions from the different regions.
well, that's the
I'd
idea.
love to
of the-
see a chance to interact with all these characters.
Well, I mean, like you can battle them already because they have like days of the week where you can fight like champions from different regions. Like that would be the idea. I have Pokemon MMO. It's like okay, you're starting. You choose a starting region. You beat the gym leaders in the Elite Four of that region, and then once you become the Pokemon champion, your next challenge now is challenge the rest of the gym leaders from the other regions, and then the Elite Four from the other regions, who scale their Pokemon accordingly with you because you're a champion.
What you're saying is you want the Pokemon anime.
I mean, that would be the smart thing to do, is make the fucking anime, just like take
I mean,
the anime
you could-
and just like
you
make an
could
MMO
go-
out of it.
you could go even further too, because like you could do that with like competitions, like all the different
Only-
extra iterations.
And
of,
like,
like, the gameplay that they
and as an
introduced.
example, like we can already do rating is literally just going after legendaries. Like just go do a legendary, like with
Only
Pokemon.
if they add in
Yeah.
Duplica the Ditto Trainer.
They would, dude. There's
They-
heavy.
there's a lot of-
thirst. Like if you saw if you watched Twitch when they were doing the Pokemon season airing, like That was like where that's everybody loved her. Everybody.
She's one of my. She's like, I watched so much of the Pokemon anime. I can't pretend. I've only seen maybe half of it, but considering it's like 1,000 episodes, it's still 500 or something. And I always loved Duplica.
Yeah, but again, like this, like if that's what they want to do, like they could easily do it, and they would make billions of dollars off of it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It would be the stupidest thing ever, because like every single person who had ever liked Pokemon at any point would be like, I'm there, I'm game, let's go.
It would be like when Pokemon Go came and everybody jumped on. The only issue I see is, remember, we already touched on this earlier. Nintendo doesn't know what the internet is.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
That's the issue. Is like once they figure out how to internet, then the
I solved the problem for you. You want to know how you solve the Pokemon MMO problem? You bring in Yoshi P.
Yes.
Wait, but isn't he like doing all the 16 stuff now?
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is. That's why it's so funny. Is because after he makes Final Fantasy 16 and makes Square Enix even more money, Nintendo rolls up with a super container and says, "Okay, you want to make Pokemon MMO for us?" And Yoshi P is like, "But I 16." They show a second super container full of money. You can go Pokemon MMO.
And he's still doing 14.
Yeah, by the way, he's still doing 14 too. And he's just like, I'm never gonna sleep again, am I?
Yeah, no.
No, never again.
Sorry, bud.
Ugh.
Thanks, though. Appreciate you.
The gaming world appreciates your sacrifice, Yoshi P, upon the mantle of Pokemon MMO.
Yes. Oh man,
off the rails.
I mean, that's what happens with these free plays. We start with we went from Chrono Cross to Pokemon. That was a nice circuitous way, and we still have Ron. Ron has to close here, so
you're welcome.
Okay.
So
well, I was originally going to talk about Lost Ark, but I don't know how big of an MMO like fan base we all are.
I know about it.
All right.
I don't.
So here's my blurb on Lost Ark, and then I'm going to pivot into what the actual topic is going to be. Here's the blurb on Lost Ark. It's a decent MMO if you like the Diablo style of playing a game. Give it a try. Yes, there's some pay to convenience skip things. You don't have to do it if you're patient. But there are fucking whales in this game. Oh my god, you could whale so hard in this game if you wanted to. But if you enjoy the Diablo 2 style of playing, give it a try. The developers for it don't seem to be complete, utter idiots. So, and they are seeming to listen to feedback, so this is probably a better MMO release for Amazon than New World was ever going to be. Give it a try. It's at the very least, it's free to play. And now for the actual thing I'll talk about. Did any of you guys see the recent state of play that Sony had for early March?
Talk about appropriate times to use the fail horn from The Price is Right.
All right. Well, here's. I'll add another one. Again, if you're watching this, you've just heard that.
Yeah,
I completely skipped it. I was
okay.
Like, I didn't expect to hear anything from them.
Okay, so it was a 20-minute presentation. It was only supposed to be games being made out of the Japan side of the Sony brand, basically. And it's like 20 minutes of videos. I have a full list of games here of everything that got shown. But the first thing that they open with is a 4-player action looter shooter game a la Anthem, but it's like a spiritual, but it looks like in all cases to be a spiritual successor to Dino Crisis, and it's made by Capcom.
Exoprimal.
Yeah, Exoprimal, yeah.
I saw that and laughed so hard when everybody was like, "Oh my God, Dino Crisis, yes!" And then it was like not Dino Crisis. And
It's a quote unquote new IP, but like it looks like
doesn't the main character in the game look just like the main character in the Dino Crisis game or something like that? Like,
well, they have generic male protagonists, but I guess one of the background NPCs looks like one of the important NPCs in the Dino Crisis series. It's the chick with the pink hair, I believe.
Regina, the redhead.
Yeah, Regina. Yeah. I guess people were just like losing their freaking minds because it looks like Regina, and I do mean like literally just like a modern day Regina would look like.
It had to be intentional. I mean, they're making a dinosaur game, and they put a character like that, and they're like, they knew that they
are making a dinosaur game where time travel is involved because the dinosaurs are coming out of random time space rifts. And your goal is as a primal hunter is to go and kill the dinosaurs to prevent them from overtaking the Earth in the quote unquote modern day of 2043. How does that sound like Dino Crisis?
It is.
So
that's my
weird
point.
Dino Crisis.
That's my rights issue that we're not aware of with Dino Crisis, where they just like wanted to remake Dino Crisis, they couldn't. So they're like, new title.
Well, that's the thing with Japan studios is if they make a game and then put in so much new shit, they just make a new game instead. Like the Sekiro was not supposed to be Sekiro. It was meant to be a Tenchu game, but just put so much new shit. And they just put so much new shit in their developing cycle of the Tenchu game. They just made Sekiro. They're just like, okay, well, it's a new game now. It's Sekiro.
The problem with Dino Crisis is they kind of burned the series to the ground as they continued it.
They did.
Like sorry.
Like, I mean, as a huge fan of the first two Dino Crisis games, Dino Crisis 3 was terrible. Like,
so was Dino Stalker.
Yeah, like if you wanted a valuable lesson in how to raise a franchise to the ground, you played Dino Crisis 3 and Dino Stalker. So
would you say it's like the Metal Gear Solid 4 of the franchise? Is it that bad?
Dino Crisis 3 takes them into space.
Yeah.
Dinosaurs in space.
Yeah, and
that sounds awesome.
Okay, question: the dinosaurs in a space station, or is it literally dinosaurs in the vacuum of space? Because there's a valid difference between the two.
Okay, space station, but it's Dino Crisis 3 feels like, you remember back in the 90s where they always had to take their franchise into space? It felt like that.
I was saying, it's like the Sharknado problem where it's like we have to
keep
overtopping.
Yeah.
We have to keep one upping ourselves, and then we just like morph ourselves to the point where we're jumping the shark. I'm jumping the shark.
Dino Crisis 3 jumped all of the sharks.
It jumped all the T-Rexes.
It is just straight up a bad game. It is a really bad game, and it kind of killed the series.
It is really terrible. It was an original Xbox exclusive.
Oof.
And yeah.
That definitely doesn't help it either.
Oh, it was a original Xbox exclusive, which was like, well, fuck me. I've never owned an original Xbox. But just.
Well, the 360 is basically completely reverse compatible, so.
Yeah, and the fun. To answer your question, Spencer, I liked Metal Gear Solid 4 than I did seeing Dino Crisis 3 and Dino Stalker.
Okay, so after Exo Primal, people were losing their freaking minds over not Dino Crisis. You saw them talk more about Ghostwire Tokyo and
that game looks good.
And Dark Souls Final Fantasy.
Stranger of Paradise.
Yeah, Strangers of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin.
Yep.
We saw more footage about Forspoken. We then saw Gundam Overwatch in the form of Gundam Evolution. Then you had the left field.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collection.
You had the left field game of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collector series, where it has basically every single TMNT game ever made put on one like bundle.
It just pisses me off. Why the fuck is this not being put on Switch as well? Most of those games were
I was going to say
Nintendo games.
3/4 of the games came from the original Nintendo, Super Nintendo, or Genesis.
Or just outright arcade games.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
just straight up arcade games. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what I meant. Like, half of them were Nintendo games, and then half of them were arcade games, and then there was the Genesis one.
Like, I was expecting it to be like with the Cross announcement for the remaster, where like it was on the Switch, and like everybody at first was like, "Holy shit, this is Switch exclusive! This is insane!" And then at the end, it was like, "Oh, this is on everything." And I was like waiting for that, "Oh, it's on everything" moment, and they just didn't come. And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
That was super disappointing.
You're gonna need the PS5 to continue to exist first before I can buy one. Just FYI, Sony.
Yeah,
throwing that out there.
If you want a PS5, give me the heads up. I'm relatively good at finding them. I've already gotten a PS5 for myself, a PS5 for one of my friends, and an Xbox Series X for my father-in-law.
Good to know.
Yeah, that's how I wound up. As soon as Ronnie got his PS5, I bought his PS4. So,
yeah. But then you have some new games with Bash and Trek to Yomi. You're seeing a re-release / remastering of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. All-Star Battle R, which is PS3 fighting game in the JoJo art style.
That one's like 10 years. No, more than 10 years. 15 years old.
It's a decently old game, but they are updating it. It looks like I from what I read about this, the hope is if you can get this game to run at 60 FPS, it should look pretty decent. I guess the issue back then was it was a 30 FPS fighting game, which means you're basically playing in molasses. We saw Returnal.
If it's locked at 30 FPS, it's not that bad. It's just if
memory serves it. I don't think it was a stable 30. I think it was like 30 to 45 fluctuating.
Yeah, and that's a problem. Because if it's not stable, that's when you have issues because of inputs. But a fighting game that is locked at 30, I think that's
still playable, but it wasn't. I'm very sure it wasn't locked at 30. Then we saw Returnal get some new DLC, and co-op being added, which is kind of funny if you consider what Returnal is.
Yeah, and considering that the mode is called Tower of Sisyphus, if you know who Sisyphus is,
yeah,
that's.
And then we had two new titles get announced by Square Enix: the Dialfield Chronicle, and then Valkyrie Elysium, which looks like it's going to be. It looks like it's going to be another title in the Valkyrie series, but it also looks like it's going to be like in a style of like Nier Automata style of combat.
To me, Dialfield Chronicle feels kind of weird because they just did Triangle Strategy. I expected the next big strategy thing they did to be trying to turn that into a series, not going with an entirely new IP.
Also keep in mind too, people started seeing Dialfield Chronicle and were thinking, "Oh my god, this is the Final Fantasy Tactics remake."
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't. It's going to be some sort of RTS sort of thing, is what it looks like it's going to be based on what they showed. And like we've heard rumors of there being a Final Fantasy Tactics remake going to eventually be released on Steam, but we have not seen Square Enix announce anything about it just yet, which is surprising because this would be like one of the best ways to get the game out there again, considering the only other ways to play it are pirating the little PS1 disc or playing on the PSP War of the Lions version.
I mean,
and I don't know about you guys, but I believe we just talked about why you can't get War of the Lions anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, not true. You can get War of the Lions on your Vita, I believe. It's not a Vita game, but it's one of the PSP games that they ported to Vita through the digital store.
Okay, but even then, the PSP, even then, War of the Lions has an issue. It has a pretty big issue. For those who aren't aware, the game runs okay until you do like specific animations of things, most notably the summons in the game. Then the game turned to a chug fest. The audio desyncs from the freaking sound effect of the video being played of the summon coming in and nuking the field. And the audio plays in 5 seconds like the normal summons did. The summons animation sits around in the game for about 45 seconds.
Honestly, between Elden Ring and Horizon, PlayStation's done enough. They should have just taken the State of Play off.
I mean, this was just them talking about their Japan.
I know. I was making a joke.
Yeah, but like, it's such a weird timing for the State of Play. But again, I think they're doing this just because, they weren't going to have anything to talk about after the releases of Elden Ring and Horizon Forbidden West, because like those were two highly anticipated games.
This is going to be the weirdest console generation ever, because we're going to be dealing with a chip shortage and a shortage of consoles for half of the generation.
At least, yeah.
At least, yeah.
Yeah. Which means it's going to be such a weird generation.
It might even... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, it feels like we don't have a clean break because so many people can't get the new consoles yet. It feels like, you know how the first like 2 years of a system are kind of that feel like an in-between period? It feels like that in-between period is just keeps going on with the new consoles.
I was gonna say, I think this is gonna extend the life of this generation pretty signilightly.
And
because there's like, what's the incentive to really like develop another new console when their sales can't be breaching their like chip shortage expectations? Like, there's no way, because like there's just not enough product out there to go out to people.
It's not like, and to be fair, it's not like they can't make the consoles. They can. The issue is just they can't make them fast enough, because they were meant to have a backlog of these chips made, but then 2020 and 2021 happened, and like global production kind of like ground to a halt for like 3 months basically. And now you have these companies which are already basically we're running at near peak capacity as is, trying to make up that missing 3 months while also trying to fulfill future orders.
And there's not enough chips for them to expand to be able to produce more, which they would have done in any other scenario.
Yeah.
It's I see it going one of two ways. I either see this generation being incredibly long, or I see particularly Sony cutting the generation short, cutting their losses, and just going straight into a new console and trying to refresh things that way.
In my opinion, I think what Sony's going to do is actually do a revamp or a readjustment of the PS5, and we'll see like a PS5 Mini come out in a couple of years with updated cooling technologies inside of it, because that's probably the one knock I've seen for the PS5 is that the cooling in the console can be executed better.
I take no guesses at what Xbox is going to do, because I feel like every time it is rolling the dice on whether Microsoft goes, okay, yeah, no, Game Pass is doing well enough, we're just going to become a third party, and we're ditching consoles at this point.
Yeah, they make so much money through Game Pass. I really think they can just like kind of like write off whatever losses they get out of the Series X and Series S's.
If they make a deal to get Game Pass on either PlayStation or the next Switch, if it's powerful enough, that's it. They'll just leave the market. Like, that's what they just need to get behind they just need one of the other console makers to get behind it. And I think Microsoft's going to go,
Sony,
we're going to be the masters of the Netflix of gaming.
I can't see Sony doing it. I could see Nintendo doing it, but the problem would be you'd have to have Nintendo make a handheld console powerful enough to run even minimum settings Halo game, as an example. And I can't see Nintendo making it.
Because Nintendo's been playing nice with Microsoft for a while.
I can't see Nintendo making a console strong enough to even run Halo Infinite at minimum settings.
That's the issue. And
Well,
that's why I
see,
said if Nintendo had
I-
one powerful enough.
I think Steam Deck's probably the best option in that scenario. If
Yeah,
anything.
Steam Deck's their best option, but even then, Steam Deck is still like
Brand new.
it's like it's brand new. They're having issues meeting their orders. Like
No, I know.
if you
Oh, I
order a
know.
if you order a Steam Deck, you are literally on a waiting list for 6 months at least.
That's me. My current date is Q3.
Yeah, so yeah, you're expecting to get your Steam Deck literally somewhere between August and November.
Yep.
Yay.
And like the Steam Deck is, from what I've read, okay hardware wise, but the software UI side of it's still not there. And that's kind of where that the issue of it is that the Linux that the Linux distro and integration software they're using is like 85% of the way there. It's almost there. There's still some bugs. There's still some compatibility issues, but the compatibility issues for some of the titles are on some of the
Everything I've
big
read is that
titles,
the Steam Deck is the best beta console you could ever buy.
basically.
We're beta testing the console for them.
Yeah, we're basically beta testing the console for them, which, to be fair, it's, from what I've read, the hardware all functions amazing. The hardware side of it looks fine. We're just beta testing the software for that.
Honestly, like where I was going with all of it, but I think it is only a matter of time until Xbox gets out of the console game. It just, is it 2 years or is it 10 years? Like, I expect them to get Game Pass everywhere they can, and then that's where they're making their money from. I mean, that's where they're making their money from right now, just only on their console.
Well,
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to depend on what Microsoft wants to do in terms of, like, I mean, like, Spencer's, for all intents and purposes, it seems like a pretty, like, competent game producer and, like, studio head. So I think he knows where the money's at, and that, like, sure, consoles can make you some money, but you've shown that you can make boatloads of money through Game Pass.
And the pandemic has shown how problematic. I really just let you in. Sorry. But the pandemic has shown how problematic being a producer of consoles can be, because this whole thing of the chip shortage and being behind on production, everything has been such a headache for them, with that they would never have had deal with if they were just doing Game Pass on other systems. That would be a cost that the other system manufacturers could do, and they're still making their Game Pass, which is where they're making their money from right now. They'll still be getting their cut no matter which system they're on, and that's what matters.
Yeah.
It's like having a virtual console. Wah wah.
Yeah, and like it was just like earlier this week, or it might have been last week, where, you know, I as social media reminded me that the Switch is now 5 years old, and I'm just like, wait a minute, what? And like, normally, you know, you're on the 5-year mark. It's when we start normally thinking about the next console. And you know, as you mentioned earlier, I don't think we're seeing new consoles for a long time.
I expect we're going to see a new console from Nintendo before either of the others.
Like, yeah.
I think a Super Switch is a couple years out. I think the earliest we're going to get it is 2024. But I could see it early 2024 or any time after that.
Yeah. And, you know, the lack, you know,
they just need it more.
And going back to Ron, you know, and the state of play, like, this is how you know how much pull you have with your fans. Like, when the Nintendo Direct was airing, I go on my Twitter and it's all Nintendo Direct. Every tweet, friends just going ape shit. And I barely even knew the state of play happened. Because it was like, there's a mention. Whereas the Nintendo Direct, everyone's glued, riveted, must-see television. You know?
Well, I think part of that's just because Nintendo's been so tight-lipped about their release schedule, whereas with Sony, we've kind of known what Sony's releasing for the next 18 months.
Yeah.
Like the only thing the only thing we're not sure of in terms of fans is when the next Final Fantasy VII remake game is being released and when Final Fantasy 16 is being released.
Basically,
and that's because Square is being very, very tight-lipped on those two titles specifically. One, because I don't think they themselves know when Final Fantasy Remake Part 2 is being done, and Yoshi P has already said, "Listen, we're not going to have any news on Final Fantasy 16 until I feel it is right to be presented, because I want this game to be presentable and then be purchasable within the next year."
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, part of it's also with there wasn't a whole lot in State of Play because two of the biggest games of the year, Horizon and Elden, just came out or were just coming out. Like, there wasn't it's like after Mario Odyssey came out, they didn't have a Nintendo Direct the week after. Like, they need a little bit of, they normally have a little bit of time between the release of these massive things and then moving the attention to the next thing.
Yeah.
You want the attention on that new thing for a while. I don't even know why they had the State of Play when they did. I would have pushed it like a month if I were them.
I think the only reason why it is because they want to try and show that there are games past Elden Ring once you come out of your Elden Ring haze 200 hours later.
I don't think some of these people know that there are games outside of Elden.
Yeah, I don't know. Listen, people have been losing their fucking minds over Elden Ring, and I'm just like, okay, it's open world. It's open world Dark Souls. Like,
I mean,
yeah,
I'm not one to talk. I drop 1,000 hours or whatever into Final Fantasy 14. I understand having a game you're obsessed with.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I've spent like 100 hours in Elden Ring too, but I am aware.
We still got to do the podcast on that.
Yeah,
that'll be all you. That'll be all you.
Walker, yeah.
So,
Walker, yeah, and like I spent 100 hours on Elden Ring, but I'm aware that there are other games outside of Elden Ring, and like I've been like still trying to keep an eye out for it. It's part of the reason why I watched the State of Play. I was like, oh, I want to see what's coming up after Elden Ring and see what I have looked forward to before E3.
Well, we've gone just about 3 hours, which is.
Could I bring up one short topic before we end, Brian?
You want a little dessert as a treat?
I wanted to ask the question. It's a shortish one, but what are each of you looking forward to in gaming this year? Do you have a game you're really looking forward to that's coming up? Like, what's everybody interested in that's coming up?
Well, I might have just done a giant segment about that, but I might not have remembered everything about that segment. So we could redo the entire segment if you want. I'm fine with that.
For me specifically, I am curious about Guilty Gear. Oh, we didn't even talk about Evo 2. God damn it! All right. I am curious.
Evo not having Smash.
Yeah. So my things are. I am curious about what future content is coming out for Guilty Gear Strive from a fighting game perspective. I am also curious as to what is going to be shown off at E3, considering a lot of the games that we have seen already that are supposed to come out this year got pushed back to next year. So, like, okay, if you're not gonna be showing off those games, like, are we seeing Spider-Man 2? Are we seeing Wolverine? Are we seeing new IPs from? Like, I mean, like we know Bethesda's working on Starbound and Elder Scrolls 6. Are we going to start seeing those at this year's E3? What are you doing for Microsoft? Like, you have Halo Infinite come out. Like, what are you going to do past Halo Infinite?
Okay.
Then for Sony, like, okay, are we seeing Dad of Son 2 being shown off at this year's E3?
I was gonna say Ragnarok.
Yeah,
Is that what
Ragnarok.
it is?
Yes, that was a joke because I
No,
suspect,
I know. I had to make sure that I remember the actual subtitle for it.
yes, I believe we will see Sony show off God of War 2 Ragnarok at this year's E3. Whether it comes out this year is anyone's guess.
How about you, Brian?
Well, I mean, we already have that's Chrono Cross. That's obvious. Coming out. I also I'm hoping for Hollow Knight Silk Song. That is still right at the top of my list. And also a JRPG. The next games in a JRPG series that I'm enjoying. It's the Legend of Heroes. It's the Trails series. We are looking to get English versions of 2 separate arcs: the Trails into Azure and the Trails.
Was that supposed to be coming
this year?
this
Yep.
year? Nice.
And Trails into Reverie, which is either this year or early next year. So that is on my radar at the moment. But the backlog.
Spencer, what do you have that's not Chrono Cross?
Radical Dreamers.
Well done, sir.
Yeah, you walked into that.
Couldn't resist. No, I'm actually looking to. I have never played the Pikmin series before, so I'm actually going to be picking up Pikmin 1 in probably the next month or so. I'm going to pick that up and see if that's the kind of style of game I'm into, because it's just that's the last GameCube title I've really not played of. That's the top tier of GameCube titles. So I'm looking forward to that.
It's one of the only big Nintendo franchises I've never touched.
Yeah, and I'm always a fan of Miyamoto's stuff, so I imagine I'll probably enjoy it pretty heavily. So I'm looking forward to that. Gen 9, when that comes out in the fall or early winter or whatever, I'm definitely looking forward to that. I don't think it'll come out this year, but I'm looking forward to new information on the Alan Wake sequel. I'm really excited about that, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that's going to look like. So, but again, that's probably not going to come out this year. And then the same thing with, I'm looking forward to seeing something about Final Fantasy Remake 2 probably in the winter. I'm thinking probably holidays, we'll probably get some information about it.
I suspect we'll see a teaser at E3, but we won't get any more information until
it'll be nothing. It'll be all non-gameplay stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be non-gameplay stuff. I suspect we'll see a teaser trailer at E3, and then we'll get release date reveal in November.
I'm thinking maybe TGS will probably.
That would my guess too be Tokyo Game Show-esque.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Control sold me completely on Alan Wake, and I'm actually gonna be starting that shortly after I get back to Massachusetts.
There's a Control 2 coming up soonish. That was supposed to be this year, I think. That could be interesting.
I'd love it if it was this year, but they never gave us a date as far as I know. Just that they were working on it.
First Alan Wake was incredible.
Oh, Control is amazing. Yeah. So
Control.
I played... okay. I guess Control 2 is only in early concept phase, which basically means
it's a thought.
Probably 2020. Yes, it's like storyboarding the overarching plots, which probably means
I played Resident Evil 7, Control, and Horizon Zero Dawn back to back to back, and those are 3 of the best games I've ever played, and they all came together. So I cannot wait to play Alan Wake when I get home. As for me, you guys have already listed a lot of the things. Like Spencer said, I am so excited about Alan Wake 2. I'm about to play the first one, but they've already sold me on it with playing Control. I'm absolutely waiting on Silk Song. I hope it comes this year, and I'm pretty convinced that Breath of the Wild 2 will be the holiday game this year. So we'll see if that happens, and if it does, I am going to be over that so hard I loved the original Breath of the Wild, and then I loved it even more after playing Age of Calamity.
Awesome.
So that's it for our mini topic.
All right, awesome. And again, we've gone 3 hours, so thank you out there to all those who've been listening to us yak about a wide range of stuff. But as always, every single episode can be found on our website, dlcpodcast.com, and the audio versions can be found on iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. So it will all be there, all the different ways to get downloadable content into your ears and eyes, because the video version will be on the YouTube channel. So you have that to look forward to. I will just do a very quick shout out because Spencer is a fellow streamer. So let me just add his name there. Let's see if Streamlabs works.
I'd say mostly doing
There he is.
What's it called?
Yep,
My brain just started games done quickly.
Spencer is a speedrunner, and right now he's
there we go, speedrunner. My brain wasn't with me. I'm like, the things they do on games done quick.
The speedrunner. So right now he's trying to get up there on the Resident Evil 4 leaderboard. So that is
Thank you.
So if any of you out there are interested in speedrunning of Resident Evil 4, give Spencer a follow. Good stuff. I know he's got a follower incentive going on right now. So
Yep. I'll actually be playing FF7 casually as that follower incentive. I'm like 10 followers away now, so I'm like super close.
ooh.
I'll be getting every character and getting every character's best weapon. Been doing a few of these different challenge runs. I did one where I got one of every materia and mastered it, and that was a long one.
Yeah, it was. I saw bits of that.
That's a long one. Yeah, jeez.
And I skipped the underwater materia max out because that actually didn't do anything. So I was like, you know what, this is a waste of everybody's time. So no, thank you.
So we will be. So next episode will probably be in a month because we're doing these once monthly. But if you have any suggestions for episodes, let us know. And maybe we'll, as we progress forward in this new world of live format, maybe we'll start doing more frequent episodes. But right now, we are going once monthly. So next month, I don't know what next month will be. So make sure you follow us on Twitter for that, and that's Twitter at DLC Podcast. So the link should be down in the below. And so all that remains for me to do is to thank Ron, Ronny, Ryan, and Spencer for hanging out with me today. It is always a blast. I love this stuff. So thank you guys so much. Hope you guys had a blast.
Definitely.
I did.
And with that,
Always a good time.
I'm Brian. Have a good one, everybody.